Okay, look at that. It is 12 noon, and I am right on time. How about that? Mark this down in your books as the day that Robert Phoenix started his Friday show on the dot. And where are you? Oh, I know you're waiting for me to show up about 10 or 15 minutes from now. I totally get it. It's been I got an email from somebody who said that it's been very hard to find me in New Zealand. Apparently, I'm a very unpopular person in New Zealand, and they do not surface my content all that easily on YouTube. So we'll have to remedy that here in the not so distant future. Anyway, there are 7 of you now who are here. Welcome. Michelle Taylor. What's going on, Michelle, from the Sunshine State? I hope you and that little lad of yours are doing well. Let's see, who else do we have here popping in slowly but surely? Christine Mose. Hi, Christine. Good to see you. Speaking of sunshine, there's Ani Brito. She's in the house. And E. Beth Berry, Joe Dimitri, Lisa Soares, W.C. Ray, Danica Rose. Danica, I just had a conversation with a young man from Nova Scotia. He's a client next week. Just saying. Lils, how are you? Double V in the house. Let's see. Good morning, Phoenix. Unique scenario happened. All of Reality Check with Jay Widener just posted, including your interview from a week ago. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's worth rewatching. I don't know. I'll check it out. Let's see. 1-0 Dragon. There's Ryan. The man, what's going on? JMP Love. Hello, Jacqueline. Good to see you. There's Christy. Danica Rose says, really? Yes, really. He's a Taurus, by the way. Just letting you know. Ralph Winter. Good to see you, Ralph. Always appreciate your comments and contributions. Nice to have you here. There's the lovely and talented Joan S. Black Flies Matter. I'm telling you, man, the right does far better memery than the left does. Who's this? This is somebody from Washington. Let's see who this is. Hold on. I gotta call him back. Here we go. Let's put them on that. Is he cute? I don't know if he's cute. I've never seen him. I'm not the best judge of, what cute is for a particular person. But I'll tell you, I will see him next week via Zoom. If he passes the eye test, I'll let you know, Danica. How about that? Renee D, good to see you. Way to show up. Danica, that's really funny. Maurice D, also in the house. Hurricane looks to be headed for somewhere around Lake Charles again today. I watched the Jay video. What did you think? That was a good video. That was a really good video. I love working with Jay Widener. I always love working with Jay Widener. Always. Good day. Celebrating 33rd today. Hey, happy birthday, Coach K. It's your Jesus birthday. We'll put some intention in my manifestation ceremony. Well, intention is always a good thing. Is he cute? That is really hilarious. That is really hilarious. I'll take a screenshot for you. How's that? Hi, Sonia. Good to see you. Glad to hear what you have to say. Let's see. Yeah, happy birthday, Coach. Looks like she's smiling. Yeah, the astrological hookup. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Anybody else? 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 I swear this is the only stream that buffers perpetually on my phone. Yeah, I tell you, this channel is small but powerful. That's what I think. Small but powerful. Brenda Zarafan. She's here. She's in the house. Welcome to the show. Good to see you. Yeah, I got an email from somebody in New Zealand who said that it's virtually impossible to find the channel now in through YouTube in New Zealand. No notifications. You can't even really search for my name. You have to. So what I suggest people do is you bookmark my channel. Just bookmark my channel, and you basically know when this thing is happening. Hey, there's my man Darren Williams. What's going on? Dazzle Theory in the house. Good to see you, Darren. I hope you're well. I would love to catch up with you sometime soon. It's like Glenn is popping in and out of here. Every time he pops in, he's wearing something different. And everybody say hi to Darren. Let's and Brenda. We got some new people here. Give them a warm little welcome so that they know that we're not some exclusive group or organization. Reese Anderson, new to this live stream. I've watched your astrology with Heather. Welcome, Reese Anderson. We got a new person here too. A lot of new people. Good. Say hello. Hello to the newbies. Hope you stick around. I subscribe and have to put a memory when the show starts. Just bookmark both channels. 9 and 12. Usually 9 during the weekdays, Monday through Thursday. Definitely 12 on Friday. And then, of course, Sunday night, this channel, about 7:45. There's Marlene. What's going on, Marlene? Marlene, did you enjoy your time in the hot springs of New Mexico? Was that fun? Tinfoil Tiara, Amanda Pomander, Tamara Garth. Tamara, I want to reach out to you a little bit later today, Tamara, and catch up with you. And then let's see. Brenda's normally a silent watcher. Well, good. Not so silent today. I sure did. Excellent. Tea Time Atessia's here. And the Tinfoil Tiara also in the house. All right. Well, you know who else is in the house? Our good friend Glenn Streeter's in the house. What's going on, Glenn? We got to get you on mic there, unmuted. Let's give me 1 second. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm great.
Good to see you.
Beautiful day in South Dakota.
Yeah, you have become kind of a South Dakota's newest son, right? In a lot of ways.
Digital nomad.
Yeah, and you decided to flee the ever kind of enclosing confines of Colorado. You hit the road and you wound up in a very beautiful place. You've shown me some pictures of your locale there. It's stunning.
It's like Mayberry here. It's like 1965. It's really amazing.
Yeah, that's kind of a good feeling, right?
Yeah, my stress level dropped thousands of points leaving Boulder.
Good. Excellent. So now you're mellow, right? You're Mr. Mellow. You're listening to some soft rock. You're listening to a little Air Supply, right?
Never.
You're listening to a little Bread.
Bread's cool.
Bread is underrated.
David Gates.
David Gates, he started off as a songwriter in the Brill Building. He was one of those Brill Building people who could actually sing. Some of those people couldn't sing.
No, he was brilliant. And been listening to a lot of Guess Who lately.
Very underrated band. Very underrated band.
One of
Lots
the
of
great vocalists of all time,
Burton Cummings.
Burton Cummings.
There's a dating game episode with Burton Cummings on it. He doesn't get picked, much to the chagrin of the woman who picked somebody else. So they went. It's funny. The dating game would have these celebrity people on there every now and then, picking somebody, right? Either female or male, and some of them are quite interesting in some ways. Like there was one with Robert Vaughn. So Robert Vaughn is one of the three men.
The men from Uncle.
Yeah. So the two guys that he was in the mix with, both of those dudes were total studs. Like this one guy, his name was Charles Lane, and he was an orthopedic surgeon, UCLA, an author. And this guy is like credentialed up to his fucking third eye, right? He's also an accomplished skier, and he's about 6'3". He's got a square jaw. Well, the neighbor's dogs are shitting and pissing on my lawn now. This is not cool.
Where's your BB gun?
It's a little beagle taking a little beagle piss on my lawn. How would they feel if I let my dogs out? If I had a dog and went over to, and he likes his lawn. The guy does lawns for a living.
Have Jasper go and pay him back.
I mean, just because I have a kind of a shitty lawn, does it give their dogs license to piss on my lawn? Telling you, man. Anyway, this guy, Charles, total stud, man. I mean, this guy is a total stud. And she doesn't pick him. And when he comes out, and this was a gal, I think, who was like a runner-up to some beauty pageant. And she was quite attractive, Southern girl. When he pops out, you could kind of see a little bit of the disappointment on her face. But then Robert Vaughn pops out, and it's like, oh, okay, And he wasn't an unattractive guy. He had that little pointy jaw, but he was funny. He was very, very funny. He was good. There's one with Steve Martin, and Steve Martin gets picked. And who picks? I think. Do you know who picked Steve Martin? Was Dean Martin's daughter. So Dean Martin's daughter was the guest. She was the female. And there were three guys, and Steve Martin was one of them. And she didn't know, of course, it was Steve Martin. And at that time, I think he was writing for the Smothers Brothers. And she picked him. So you had the two Martins. So that was one. The weirdest one, though, was the Carpenters. So it was on the same show. They had Karen Carpenter picking three guys. And then they had this woman, and Richard Carpenter was one of the three guys. And the woman actually picked Richard Carpenter. And he's so odd, man. He's just so odd. He doesn't come out. He doesn't hug her. He doesn't do the little kissy on the cheek. He shakes her hand. I'm like thinking, I bet that date went real well.
Karen Carpenter was the height of elegance.
She was a very sweet person. Very kind. You can just tell. Very kind, very sweet. And the guys that had lined up for her were complete oddballs. Just total fucking oddballs. But I like going back and watching those old dating game shows. And we can bring your kind of expertise into this. The physiognomy of the people are quite different. It's like a whole different species.
For sure.
Men are square jawed. They tend to be, healthy. People just look healthier. They just look healthier. And even the products that are sold are, sort of like for the men, there's like, here's this, aftershave cologne that will bring out the macho in you and stuff. It's very kind of male oriented, very female. It's very, kind of male female. And you just look at some of those people then, and you look at the people now, and it looks like you're a completely different species.
Yeah, there's a lot of vectors for that. We could talk about that for hours.
Yeah.
But most of it is the estrogenous nature of manhood now. The toxicity matrix creates this estrogenous situation for the men, but it also raises testosterone in women. So we're moving in the wrong direction in both species.
Right, right, right. And when you look at a lot of the BLM videos, who's out there, really causing a lot of the ruckus. A lot of it's women. And, and not always so-called black women, right?
And highly unattractive women. Typically.
Well, it depends. If you're a woman that's into highly unattractive women, you know, you may find that very attractive, right? It's all in the eye of the beholder, I suppose. But in terms of the common scale of what we would term beauty or aesthetics, they do not fit into that vector or bucket at all. And have you seen these pictures, by the way? We're going to get to what our topic is, which is really going to be about survival medicine, and I called it Mad Max medicine. But have you seen these pictures of young women who go to college and they look one way when they go into college and then they look a different way when they come out of college? Have you seen those pictures?
No.
Oh, boy. It's really striking. Very shocking. When we have more time, I'll delve into that. And it is mind-blowing. You'll see these women and they're really like beautiful and feminine and kind of, in some ways innocent. And then, holy shit, man, they come out and a lot of them look deranged.
Like a 4-year meth trip.
What's that?
Like a 4-year meth trip.
Yeah, it's meth and obviously, some form of indoctrination. And then another thing, and so the other thing too is that, some of these gals will wind up having their breasts removed while they're away in college. And they'll come home and their parents will find a completely different being showing up.
Wow.
It's really, really bizarre. Really bizarre stuff. Anyway, let's jump into the topic at hand, which is, how if this script continues to unfold. And by the way, if you're not following, sort of the latest updates, where is it? Was it another town in Wisconsin? Was a Waukesha, or basically they went wilding a night or two. If you don't know what the term wilding is, it's kind of this very it's not quite rioting, but it's like purge sort of styled terror tactics, where they run around and throw rocks through windows and, rocks, and they bash in car windows and create a general ruckus. It's called wilding. And I believe it was a town in Wisconsin called Waukesha. This happened just a couple nights ago. The video is out there. They started to do these tactics in the American cities, and burning down the American cities and looting the American cities. They're moving into the suburbs now. And Kenosha was the first real stop on the suburb terror tour. Okay. And that's where this is headed now. Right. And we're headed into a time where everything is going to get really heightened. The Crimis are going to come on in the second part of the show. We're going to talk about the 25th Amendment with Pelosi. They're going after Trump's theoretical sanity now. It's another coup attempt. Things are very unstable, highly unstable. And if we live in unstable times, we can't count on the same sorts of things to help us. And even if the times were theoretically stable, which might have been, who knows, maybe 3 months ago, it's very difficult to go into a hospital and deal with, kind of elective procedures of surgery. And if you're going to go into a triage situation, you're going to go through the COVID portal, right? They're going to run all the COVID tests that they have available, whether it's scanning your forehead or taking a COVID test, getting the deep nasal swab, alien implant, whatever, right? So if you go into a triage situation, you're going to have to go through that portal. And there's no guarantee you're coming out of that portal. If they have a false positive or the test is loaded and you're positive, and let's say you go in for, I don't know, a cut that needs stitches, right? Something minor. You may not be coming out of that situation. So
That's right.
that's why you're here today. You're here to help people kind of navigate through a time where you don't want to have to go there. So why don't we start there?
Okay. 35 years ago, I started my 5,000-hour internship from my medical degree. And the level of incompetence, fraud, malfeasance, and things that I'm seeing now in the medical system bring a tear to my eye, like the old Indian in the trash commercial back in the 70s, you know?
Yeah.
It's bad. And there's lawsuits that are flying now all over the world for this malpractice. So to your point that you just said so eloquently, we're looking at a situation where there's critical care facilities closing, hospitals closing all over the country in a supposed pandemic. What does that mean? So these facilities may not be available, A. B, they may not take you if you're a Trump supporter. It may get to that point where they have to triage people and they're only going to take lefties.
I want to add one very important thing, that, if I may, just really quickly. You remember Jennifer from last year's event? And did you see her speak on Saturday when we had our little Matrix Mash? Did you see her thing? So Jennifer works at a major hospital, and she talks about how they're working with outcome-based kinds of models of care.
Jennifer.
Right. So Jennifer F. Let's just call her Jennifer F. Right. So she talks about how if they deem that you are going to be more of a drag on the system, they don't want you in the hospital. Right. They don't want you. So let's say you're post 60. They'll look at you, they'll size you up, and they'll say, well, you know, you're gonna count against our insurance factor. I don't know. Go down the road. You know, we want somebody who has a faster recovery time and may not show up again here in about another week. So, and again, to your point, if they think that you are quote unquote Trump supporter or you're on the right or whatever, they could use any of these vectors to deny you service.
Absolutely. We call it the COVID cash register in the business. $13,000 on the death certificate for COVID and $32,000 for the ventilator. I mean, this is fraud at an unprecedented level.
By the way, did you hear Chris Christie's on the ventilator now?
Really? Wow.
Yep.
There's another $2K for that hospital. So to get started, we're going to move very quickly because we got a ton of info in a short time.
Sure.
People can rewind if they need to. So let's start with the obvious for preppers, obviously, is food, weapons, protection, etc. We're not going to cover that. We're going to cover the things that people tend to forget. So number one is water purification. You can use a portable water filter, like from a quality mountaineering company. Reverse osmosis filters are available for under $500 on our website. Bleach, you can look up the ratios to use. But there's another one called Adia, ADYA, Adia Clarity. This is a fantastic product that will purify water safely and inexpensively. Then there's boiling, of course, about 5 minutes, and the water's drinkable. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing is ABCs. Everybody should really bone up on these things now. There's tutorials on YouTube. So that stands for airway, breathing, and circulation, right? So number one is to keep the airway open. Folks should invest in an intubation tube. I don't have one here to show, but that allows folks to get an airway open. It's really something that should be done by a medical professional, but these lines are being blurred right now. Folks can invest in an AED, which is a defibrillator. If they have the resources, that would be wise for a heart attack, heart stoppage. Folks should get C-locks for the circulation piece. This is CELOX. This can stop a 3-inch wound from bleeding instantaneously.
Yeah, you've talked about C-locks before. Glenn,
Yeah.
I found the intubation tube.
Okay.
Maybe I can show this to people.
Sure.
And you can chime in. This looks like it's a pretty good package here. Can you see that?
Yep.
So you get the endotracheal intubation. You've got gloves and a series of tubes. And I mean, I don't know a whole lot about this, but it looks like it's a fairly complete kind of setup. Can you get any feedback on this thing?
That looks complete. I would, and at some point, anything's better than nothing, not having.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
So then the next thing would be a suture kit for cuts that are large enough that need to be sutured.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing we can get into is antibiotic replacements. So things like grapefruit seed extract, black walnut hull, hydrogen peroxide. That's the lower end of the spectrum. And then we move up into the silvers, colloidal silver, nano silver. We do have the Bentley of those on our website called Nanoxide. If folks have the resources, they should stock up on that. And then there are necessary meds. Everyone who knows me knows I'm not a big fan of big pharma. However, there are situations where they become mandatory, like blood pressure, nitroglycerin, pain meds, psych meds. For people who are on psych meds, they really should stock up because they may not be available. And going cold turkey on some of those things can be deadly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then moving up the list.
Hold on one sec. Before you go there, I want to ask you your opinion on one thing and what I think is an interesting option. Now, I know antibiotics or generally want to avoid antibiotics, but in some situations, you really may need an antibiotic. Would you agree with that or disagree with that?
In most of our lab studies and thousands of hours with clients, I'd say the silver is probably 80 to 90% effective. There are situations that are too far gone, and then things like Cipro might be necessary, but very, very rare.
But
always,
just in case you needed like that thing, right?
I agree. Yep.
One of the things I'm going to tell people, and that they don't understand this, but you can actually buy amoxicillin in a pet food store. And they use amoxicillin in fish tanks.
That's right.
So if you want to get amoxicillin over the counter, it's the same amoxicillin that you as an individual would take. You could go to a pet food store and get it for your fish, and it'll work for you. Now, I don't know what the dosage would be, but at the very least, you'd have some amoxicillin on hand.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. There's also turpentine therapy. You can get medical grade turpentine at diamondgforestproducts.com, about $40 a year. And then there is a blue product. I'm trying to remember the name of it now. I was going to mention that. Very inexpensive. A lot of ways. Even hydroxychloroquine is going to be better than most antibiotics.
Yeah. Though that's true. And would you, I mean, the whole idea with hydroxychloroquine, combining it really maybe with zinc and a few other things to kind of.
The Z-Pack.
The Z-Pack. Yeah. So that synergistic kind of blend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there are products that do double duty, like carbon 60, which is 200 times more powerful than vitamin C, but it also has antiviral and antibacterial properties.
Mm-hmm.
Folks should just start stocking up. Just get a plethora of these things. A whole bunch of them are super inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
Right from the supermarket.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling about this is that we're in this for a while, and I would try to get at the very least like a 6-month supply. Very least. We could be, because if you look back on the Bolshevik Revolution, that was basically about a 3-year ordeal from start to finish. Okay. So we could be in, if this thing goes full tilt boogie, we could be in this thing for 3 to 4 years. And you have to plan accordingly. So my question for you is, let's say everybody says, okay, I've got my 6-month supply of stuff, right? And all of a sudden we're still kind of in the middle of the forest. What are some really simple things that are just right under our noses that we could go to if we really needed to in a pinch?
Okay. So, the obvious are things like vitamin C, very inexpensive and a lot of bang for the buck. Apple cider vinegar, hydrogen peroxide, baking soda. Just basically raid the pharmaceutical section of the supermarket. Gauze pads, braces, slings. You're never going to have too much gauze, right?
Yeah.
And then moving up the scale, if folks have the resources, they can get into handheld laser therapies. There's one called the MedLight 630 Pro. I think it's $300 on Amazon. I mean, it's fantastic, bang for the buck. We have the Avazia device on our website. $500 can fix a sprained ankle in an hour, right? Take away sinus congestion, sore throat, back pain. And then moving up the scale, if folks have the resources, a PEMF device, infrared sauna for well-being and detoxification. Basically trying to create a whole healing spa in your home if possible.
Right. I think a lot of people would really benefit from like a Red Cross training course, I think, right? Don't you think so? Like, yeah. How long would it take for somebody to get kind of trained in a kind of a Red Cross deal? A couple weeks or something like that? And would you recommend that?
I'd say if folks have the time and the resources, go for it. But I think you could do a primer on YouTube and get away with the basics for the ABCs. That would be a great place to start. I mean, any knowledge is better than none.
Yeah.
And again, we do have to plan for these folks not being available.
Right. I think one of the things that I know that I would like to, really get more understanding with is the tourniquet process, which could save somebody's life. I don't know if there's YouTube videos on tourniquets. Do you want to talk about tourniquets a little bit here?
Yeah, I'm sure there are. So obviously that process would involve serious bleeding where someone's going to bleed out. So that would be a combination of the tourniquet and the C-locks. You always want to put it closer to the heart than the opening of the wound.
Okay.
And you need to put it tighter than you can possibly imagine. Running the risk of losing the limb is probably going to happen anyway if the bleeding continues, including loss of life. So 3-foot gauze with a stick. Put the gauze closer to the heart than the wound. Put the stick on the tourniquet and begin to crank down on it. And use that as a screw to tighten the tourniquet. And then obviously knot it off if possible, and seek help because you only have minutes.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. I was doing this research on Calvin Coolidge, his president, and his son died a very tragic death, and he was out playing tennis, and he wasn't wearing any socks in his tennis shoe, and he wound up getting this blister in his foot, and the blister became infected. And this is in the 1920s, and they had nothing to deal with that. And Calvin Coolidge had to watch his kid die. And obviously, we're in a time now where theoretically, we have things that can help that. But in an emergency situation, you're dealing with infection and sepsis, and something really minor could go really major.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many cases we've seen of minor cuts becoming a major life-threatening issue because it's not taken care of properly.
What's the course of action there?
Okay, topical iodine, which is about $15 for a few months' supply. That it's called betadine solution. That's the first place to begin any open wound. That's obviously not too large. If we're talking a 3-inch wound, it's better to use hydrogen peroxide, something of that sort, undiluted. Clean the wound and then dress the wound with the C-locks. If the C-locks isn't necessary because it's small enough, you want to use the gauze that has the plastic on the side that won't stick to the wound. Secure the wound with tape, ace bandage, and then find someone who can deal with it properly. But you only have days at that point. Then you'd want to give them a silver or some type of natural antibiotic replacement internally.
Mm-hmm.
Massive doses, probably 3 or 4 times what you would take as a prophylactic.
Right. So you would really want to just pull out all the stops because that, I mean, that stuff could just spread like wildfire very, very quickly.
The
Yeah.
laser therapy can also stop or block or slow down infections in a
Mm-hmm.
wound.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about, I mean, these are all, physical remedies. What about state of mind? Let's talk state of mind here.
Okay. Um, in all the survival training and things that I've done, that's been the primary thing that's focused on.
Mm-hmm.
And once you lose hope, you're doomed. And it's very difficult to lose hope when you're moving. So I don't mean just movement for movement's sake, but I mean moving forward, trying to become better all the time and create a better position that's safer, more prepared. Breathing techniques like Wim Hof, books, things that are encouraging. Whole bunch of great stuff on YouTube that I don't take advantage of enough. Pull up some sacred geometry and watch that. Listen to the sacred healing tones. There's actually specific healing tones for almost everything you can imagine, from a sprained ankle to stage 4 cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these are really magnificent. They can really change the state very quickly. Things like essential oils can change our state of being quickly. Something as simple as a hot Epsom salt bath, which is another thing we should stock up on that I neglected to mention.
Mm-hmm.
Magnesium is the magical healing cure for constipation, sore muscles, well-being.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Music.
What's your feeling on Manuka honey?
Well, honey is a superfood. Amazing properties all across the board. Manuka seems to have this extra special, like turbo kind of characteristics to it.
Right.
I haven't played around with it that much.
Mm-hmm. My kid cut his knee one time, and I put Manuka honey in the cut, right, to deal with it. And I wound up taking him to emergency because another part of the relationship demanded I take him there. And so when I went there, I told the doctor on call that I had used Manuka honey, and she was like, "What? What's that?" Don't ever do that again. So anyway, but it's supposed to have some antiseptic properties, and I just wanted to get your
Oh
take
yeah,
on
you're
that.
referring to topically. Yeah, it
Yeah,
does have those properties.
yeah. Diana talks about borax. You want to talk about borax a little bit? 20-multane borax.
Sure. Borax is something that most of us, or boron, something that most of us are deficient in.
Mm-hmm.
Can help to balance the endocrine system, hormones. Does have antifungal properties. You're going to want to mix a teaspoon in a liter of water and take maybe 3 days to drink that.
Mm-hmm.
Can also be used topically. And we're talking $3 a month.
Yeah, it's a great thing to have around. And there are things that you can actually ingest that people don't understand that you can ingest them. Like you can actually ingest food grade hydrogen peroxide.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about maybe the benefits of that?
Sure. Well, the peroxide has amazing anti-pathological properties, but it does need to be diluted if it's going to be taken internally.
Mm-hmm.
You should just have a slight aspect of that kind of buttery, kind of carbonated taste that hydrogen peroxide has.
Mm-hmm.
Can be used as a gargle, a lavage for the sinuses. Just make sure it's diluted. You don't want to be burning those sensitive tissues.
Right.
But hydrogen peroxide's a winner for, $1.59.
There's this rumor that Dick Cheney has to drink hydrogen peroxide every day
Hmm.
because his breath is so foul.
Somebody should feed him an entire 5 gallons of it at a time.
That's the Dick Cheney rumor. What about food grade diatomaceous earth? What's that good for?
DE is fantastic. We call it liquid sponge,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like bentonite clay or MSM. Those are all fantastic cleansers of the body through different pathways. It's a chelator. It's going to grab onto metals certain plastics, petroleum products, solvents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we want to maybe talk about some poisoning situations, right? And you can't get to a poison control center. If it's an infectious agent, the silver is probably going to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
If it's more of a solvent, we're going to look at things like EDTA, carbon 60, diatomaceous earth. But I should say something about the DE. We want to be careful that it's not from China and it doesn't contain all these heavy metals, because we've tested some in the lab and they were filthier than what the people were trying to remove from their body.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. So you can always, generally speaking, you can look up the source, and even when you go to Amazon to buy something, if you go there, they will say country of origin.
Mm-hmm.
There, and you can always look at your products when you buy something. It will say country of origin, and I always do that. I don't, if I'm going to buy some food or whatever, I never buy anything from China food wise, nothing. And you can find out, and it can even be organic. You can say organic. You can still be from China, believe it or not.
50% of the organics are not organic. I just listened to a former FDA official and a Canadian FDA official talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
The other people should really get good with the pendulum or get good with muscle testing, the ring test, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're standing over the food, put the food under your chin if you can,
Mm-hmm.
and just muscle test it. Say, is it in my highest good to ingest this? Yes, no, and do it 3 or 4 times and make sure that it's positive. And you can
Mm-hmm.
save yourself a lot of aggravation that way.
Regular girl just brought something up, interesting up. Distilled water. You can buy water distillers pretty cheaply on the internet.
Sure.
Some of which you can plug in, and some of which are not plug in. You can actually use like a heat or combustion system in order to distill water. Talk about the benefits of distilled water and maybe having your own distiller.
Well, water that is distilled is definitely the purest. It may not be the best for all situations. I like to tell people 50-50, so 50% spring water and 50% distilled, just because distilled water has a distinct need for a charge because it doesn't have a charge on it. So it's very good for detoxifying the body. But on
Mm-hmm.
the other hand, it is removing things that are positive. So good idea to put a good mineral supplement into RO water or distilled water every now and then
Mm-hmm.
to take that charge off of it.
Right, 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 right. Um, what else? What else was I going to ask you about? Oh, I think a really great thing to have around, obviously, because it has so many uses, is garlic. Right, garlic is a very, very powerful antifungal. It does a lot of stuff. Can you talk a little bit about garlic?
And can keep the vampires away.
Yeah, that absolutely. We got to keep those vampires away. But it's a pretty organic, pretty simple, pretty natural food source that's capable of doing a lot of different things. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't use it a lot. I have read some studies where garlic is not good for the brain.
Hmm.
So I've kind of been researching that a little bit lately.
Okay, so you're kind of halfway on the garlic thing.
Yeah, but it's inexpensive and it can be used topically for a poultice.
Hmm. Now you mentioned turpentine. What about some of the other oils? Castor oil, linseed, any of those things could be helpful for people?
Oh yeah, another thing we should talk about is DMSO, dimethyl
Hmm.
sulfoxide, as a topical. It's $30 for a year's supply on Amazon. If you have sensitive skin, you want to get it with aloe vera, the roll-on.
Hmm.
But these oils that you're referring to can actually be used in combination for painful joints or muscles, where you put the DMSO on and then put emu oil, which is the best,
Hmm.
castor oil, arnica, CBD, THC, whatever you have access to. And the DMSO will literally drive that oil into the joint as a fire extinguisher.
Right.
And if you sleep with that on with some saran wrap so you don't mess up your bed, wake up in the morning, remove that, you'll have significant pain relief
Hmm. Hmm.
for inexpensive situation.
So, yeah, and then there are the people like Edgar Casey was, I think, really big on what was it, linseed oil and a wrap, sort of a gauze wrap, right?
Hmm.
To be very helpful for pain. What about things like poultices?
No, they're great. They've
Hmm.
been used for centuries and well documented. particularly for infections and joint pain, skin conditions, bites, right? Insect bites, things like that. Probably a good idea to have a snake bite kit around as well. Maybe some homeopathics to deal with those, which are inexpensive and can be quite effective. Because some of those venom or anti-venoms can be, I don't know, I talked to a woman the other day, $15,000 for her snake bite treatment.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. What about something as simple as oatmeal for topical use?
Never used it. I'd rather eat it.
I'd rather eat it. Yeah, that's funny. I've seen where people will use oatmeal, especially to draw things out because it seems to be absorptive in that way.
We tend to use bentonite clay for that.
Okay. All right. So we're looking at a combination of everyday products, some specialized products, and things that you can find at your pharmacy that can be very, very helpful. What about pain? Like pain is a big thing, and pain can also be very demoralizing. And I know a lot of people don't want to get into painkillers or don't. From your perspective and being somebody who is kind of anti, big med, big pharma. Well, what do you suggest for pain? Is go down the CBD route for pain? What do you think?
Well, pain is a result of inflammation. Some of that inflammation is chronic and slow, and some of it is acute, obviously, like a broken leg. So we want to control the day-to-day inflammation with CBD, THC if available, and if possible, depending on people's constitution. We prefer aspirin over ibuprofen. We prefer naproxen over ibuprofen. Naproxen is much safer. It's called naproxen sodium.
Yeah.
Get that at Costco for $10.
Right.
So that's the bottom level. As you go up, THC is much more effective than CBD for severe pain. DMSO, great pain reliever. And then moving up the chain, it's the only thing better than that is the prescriptions. So if folks have the situation where they can actually get some oxycodone, what have you, morphine, all those things, they could be critical.
Somebody brought up kombucha and then fermented stuff. I'm not a big kombucha fan, but what about things like fermented foods? How they're not that hard to kind of procreate. You just let them rot a little bit. What's your feeling on fermented foods?
What a sharp group you have. They're actually doing all my notes for me here. So kombucha, great story. We don't have time to go into it, but people should watch Paul Stamets talk about how he shared kombucha with the Bayer Corporation in Germany. They wanted to use it because it has anti-cancer properties and it's an incredible tonic, but it's not meant to be taken every day, by the way. People should not be guzzling kombucha. I'm a big fan, but back to the fermenteds in general, those are probably the best probiotics that we have, better than any pill, is sauerkraut, pickles, beets, all those things. Great way to store food as well without refrigeration. Our ancestors did it for centuries.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Did you ever run across this guy? I think his name was Alexander von der Plantz. Do you ever run across him? He was this really interesting character, was kicking around, I think, in the late 90s. And his story was that he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And, he kind of went off on a quest, right? Started traveling the world. And he wound up in the northern part of Alaska, British Columbia, so the kind of Inuit territory. And he stumbled upon I think it was like some rotting or fermented, walrus blubber or walrus meat, and this is the only thing he had to eat, right? So he kept eating this stuff because it was there, and then he had this amazing recovery from his cancer from eating this kind of fermented, semi-rotted food. And then he continued to do this and allowed vegetables in his refrigerator to go kind of bad because there was something like really powerful about the healing effect of these slightly fermented and not so ripe. You'd even let like milks kind of get to this place.
Hmm.
And he's convinced that those foods cured him of cancer.
It's probably the enzyme activity that takes place when the food is breaking down, that oxidative place, maybe making the cells more available when you eat it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't studied it, but that's fascinating.
Yeah, if you want to, it's an interesting story. Alexander von der Plantz, I think that's his name, and he was sort of the thing right around like 97, 98, and just wanted to get your take on that.
And
What about like microgreens? Like sprouts, the whole sprout world, very easy to grow, and high in a lot of things. Where are you with that?
yeah, those are great. Vertical farming, you can do broccoli sprouts, radish sprouts, high nutrient density, high mineral content.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a product on our website called BioAge, where each capsule is equal to 10 pounds of spinach or broccoli.
Mm-hmm.
So that would really allow you to get away with MREs or crap food, freeze-dried food, if that's all you have. The problem with those foods is that they don't have any living enzymes.
Right.
Right. So to get those enzymes is so critical, and this is the best way to do that.
Got to supplement those things. Um, well, Glenn, we've covered a lot of bases here.
Here's the
Um,
BioAge.
there you go. There's some green stuff for you. Is there anything that we've left out here?
Um, yeah, protection. Let's talk about that real quick. I've been looking for body armor, and it's almost nowhere to be found. Everyone's gearing up, right? But
Mm,
Cabela's does have a inexpensive kind of flak jacket that'll stop pistol rounds, and it's inexpensive. And those are available, so folks should probably do that. And if they're going to rumble, a ballistic helmet that can stop bullets or fragments and what have you.
hmm
Communications are critical, right? Everyone should get a Yaesu or a Motorola or some kind of communication. Baofeng has one for $50. That's world class on
hmm
Amazon.
hmm Yeah,
Uh,
these things they're good, and I was watching Matt Bracken and Fernando Aguirre last week, and Matt Bracken made a really great point. He said if you had like say 10 of these Baofungs, right, and you knew how to use them, and they were all programmed, right, in a situation where if it was shit hit the fan, and you got 10 of these things, and you could give them to people in your neighborhood, guess what? You're the man. Like you have hooked people up in a way that could be life changing and game saving. So they're about $40, and if you could purchase six of them and learn how to program them, now you got six. You got some backups you can share. And the other thing that he talked about, and I thought that this was really very important, is that you can get these little pen lights. You can put them on your keychain. I have one, and you can get they'll throw some of these things. They'll throw out about 125 lumens, and they're little tiny, just one battery, and you can throw that thing out there, and they're not that expensive. You can get them for anywhere between $5 and $11, depending upon who the maker is. And if you can get at least a dozen of these things, they're great to have because you always need light, and you can put one on your keychain, keep one in your car, move around your house. And the other thing too, again, is if you have enough, you can share them with people. And again, in situations where shit hits the fan, and you have even something as small as a little light like that is a game changer. It sets you up in a very interesting sort of relationship with other people. And they say, "Oh, this guy gave me this flashlight. I remembered that," and then that can in turn think, "Oh, how would you like some pickled beets or something?" You know what I mean? So there are little things that we can do and stock up on so that if things do happen and we have like an extra amount of them, we can swap them out or just give them away. And it's a really cool thing to do.
sure. And all these things we're talking about medically are barterable, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, this is about team. And one of my teachers about 10 years ago told me, humanity will learn how to be neighborly again. You can do it the easy way or you can do it the hard way.
Right.
I think
Right.
we're about to learn the hard way.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've been, you and I have talked about this kind of resetting this idea of individualism.
Mhm.
And, we've been great at being individuals. And now we've got to kind of, you know, take what we know about being individuals and then rebond together so that we're helping each other versus kind of being the lone wolf or the lone gunman.
No,
So,
we thrive on symbiosis, quid pro quo,
yeah,
something for something. If we take care of each other, that's how it's meant to be, rather than this parasitical top-down scenario that we're currently living under.
right. I wanted to ask you another thing here. A long time ago, people used mercurochrome, and there's
Wow.
mercury in mercurochrome, right? So, is there any benefit of mercurochrome at all? Or
No, that's old news.
yeah, I just wanted to cover that because some people may think that mercurochrome is still a thing.
If you have to irrigate a wound, again, it's hydrogen peroxide, betadine, iodine scrub, any kind of silver, colloidal silver, copious amounts. And once it's clean, keep it dry and you'll be fine.
Right, right, absolutely. I guess the hardest thing really is a broken bone, right? That's going to be one of the more difficult things that people can encounter in a time where things get hot and maybe the hospital can't take you or won't take you. Kind of what's the most fundamental way you can deal, and I know it's a big question because there are different bones and joints and not everything's going to line up the same, but what's the most fundamental way that people can deal with that? Just regular little splint?
Okay, well, worst case scenario is when the skin becomes punctured by the broken bone.
Mm-hmm.
That needs serious attention, and it means that the bone is displaced. So if you're gallant enough, you can maybe try to reduce that break and straighten things out and then deal with the wound. But the number one thing with broken bones is immobilization. So if folks wanted to invest in a walking Velcro cast that's plastic on the back for ankle sprains or knee issues, knee braces, anything that can immobilize, splints. Red Cross makes a really cool splint that's actually flexible and malleable and can.
Mm-hmm.
We use this in guiding and ski guiding. You can actually mold it to the leg and then ace bandage the thing on. Those are quite versatile and they can be carried in a backpack. But number one, immobilize. Number two, pain relief. Number three, blood flow. Sometimes broken bones can stop blood from moving. And anytime you see pooling or swelling away from the heart, called distant, we want to make sure that we deal with that as well.
Right, and that's really about the worst case scenario you'll run into is that or some deep internal bleeding that you're just not going to be able to deal with. In which case,
And remember, we've healed broken bones in the clinic with PEMF therapy in 11 days.
Mm-hmm.
So if folks have the resources, they should definitely take a hard look at PEMF to deal with these things.
And I also think that it really helps to get to know your neighbors. You may have a doctor 4 or 5 doors down from you. You may not know it, right? You may not know who's in your vicinity who can be of assistance to you in a time of emergency or crisis. Or you may have somebody who's an EMT person. You don't even have to be a doctor. So again, I think it helps to know who your neighbors are and try to, introduce yourself or, and this is one of the things that Matt Bracken talks about that I actually would recommend to people is number one, you need to have a bicycle. Like bicycles are really important and they've been very hard to find. But if you have a bicycle, it does 2 things. Number one, total shit hits the fan scenario, you got transportation. It's number one. Number two, they're quiet. There's no engine with a bicycle. Nobody knows you're coming. And then number three, you can actually get a bicycle and ride it around your neighborhood and ride it around your town. And what that does is that gets you seen and noticed by people in your neighborhood. And if you do it consistently enough, you can say hi, have conversations. You'll never know who you run into. So I highly recommend a bicycle, and make sure you have a couple of extra tires, a couple extra tubes, and patch kits. I think those are important.
Chain, extra chain.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toolkit. Yeah.
Mhm.
The bicycle is the ultimate force multiplier, if you think about it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, the average person could probably bike 20 miles in a day on flat terrain, but try walking 20 miles.
Exactly. Exactly. This is what Bracken was talking about. And again, if you ride your bike around town, you'll get, if you're consistent, you'll see people, you'll know people, and you'll strike up conversations. And these are important things to do. And the other thing that I would suggest is, I don't know if you've looked into this yet, Glenn, but have you connected with the sheriff up there in your area of South Dakota yet?
I have not.
Those are good things to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, know who your sheriff is. You could go by the sheriff's office. You can introduce yourself, sit down, talk to them. These people work for us. They are elected officials, and in many cases, they're very connected. And if you don't know who they are, you should probably find out and then talk to people in town and get the pulse, right? Get the pulse and who they are. Like, I know the guy in this town is a good guy. And I met him, and he said that he would not enforce any of the mask rules, right? So that's somebody you could probably have a good conversation with. And if you get to know the sheriff, they know other people. So the sheriff is a point of is at the center of a hub that it would be important to kind of get to know and be able to connect with.
I think it's safe to say that the way things are progressing, the sheriffs are the linchpin to this whole thing,
Yeah.
because they are the only elected law enforcement official, and they can tell the feds to go pound sand, as far as jurisdiction in their county.
Right. And not every sheriff is the same. I mean, you'll run into, corrupt sheriffs, and then you'll run into the Richard Macks of the world, who are, old school. Let me ask you one other question, Glenn. What about, and this is something that a lot of people don't think about, but what about something as simple as like an inflatable raft or a kayak or canoe? Where are you with something like that?
I have one. I have an inflatable two-person kayak. I love it.
Yeah.
You can put it in a backpack and carry it up a mountain and then kayak home.
Right. Yeah. In a shit hits the fan situation, if roads are blocked and you have access to a river or a creek,
Mm-hmm.
right, you can, kind of, get a light bug out thing, and you can hit that little waterway, and you may be able to camp out for a while, and you're off the road, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing that people may want to think about. An inflatable kayak is a good one, or an inflatable solid raft could be another good thing to have.
I like it.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Streeter, anything else you got to share with us?
Just that I'm seeing all kinds of cool breakthroughs. The Renaissance continues in the midst of the shit show. I should mention one. There's a healing app for the cell phone on the website called Healy, Healy.
Mm-hmm.
Very inexpensive, and we're seeing miracles with this thing. So just keep your eyes out for the technology that can make this thing tolerable, if not pleasant.
Okay. And of course, the place that you can reach Glenn is right there, energymedfit.com. I'll put his link into the description of the show for his website, and a few other links to things that we talked about that might be helpful for people.
Sorry, I missed the harvest.
Well, yeah, man, it was a good time. And, I'm holding the space for number 3. So hopefully you'll make your return visit. You will orbit back next year. Okay.
It'd be great. It's a great bunch.
It is a great bunch. Glenn, thanks for your help, all your service and what you do. Appreciate you. And you and I will be in touch, and we'll be seeing you down the road. Okay.
Sounds great, Robert. Take care, everybody.
There he is, Glenn Streeter. Here's your Mad Max medicine bag for the SHTF scenario. So, excuse me. You don't know this, but we've been joined by this guy right here. Here he is, the Astro Cat. Yes. Yes. There he is. He's been on my lap for like the last 10 minutes. You may have noticed that. Maybe you did. Ralph says, living in the UK, from my perspective, this live stream is amazing. Yeah, it's a good stream. This is this is kind of an extension of, off stream, live stream. It's all one. Let me get in here and let's bring the Crimis in. They're ready to roll. They are ready to rock and roll. They're going to bust out their new microphone today. Crimis getting high tech. I pushed them a little bit last time. Let's see how they adapt to their high tech nerdiness. Let's see what happens there. Okay, Steve and Chris, I sent the invite. So you're up. You're up. There's my man Steve. Steve Mercer. I'm betting Steve might have made it back. I'm betting. Let's see. What else do we have here? Digital healing. There is digital healing going on here. I think this is a healing experience. People get to come here and hang out and not feel like they're alone, right? Not alone. That's the toughest thing about our time, being alone, being isolated. That's the deal right there. Don't want to be alone. Don't want to be isolated. Don't want to be alienated. And, it's a little bit of an antidote to that. There they are. Let's bring them in.
Yes.
All right.
There they are.
All right. Shut this down. See, do you hear us?
I hear you great.
Wait.
And you can always adjust your volume a little bit too. You can turn your internal volume up a little bit.
Let's see. Hold on. Share screen.
Microphone.
That would be an internal. That'd be on your computer, by the way.
Game. Can you
You
hear
go
us?
into settings on your computer.
We can't hear him. No, we can't. Hear him.
Audio. You can't hear me?
All right. Hold on.
You've been unmuted. I can hear you.
Okay, good. Should be working. No.
I can hear you.
Can you
Let's see. It worked on the test.
Keep your eye on chat. Okay. Where'd they go? Oh, now we lost them. There we go. Well, they'll be back. Time for me to get my survival books out. Apparently, one of the better survival books is by Selco. Are you there now? Can you hear me?
can hear you?
Okay. All right. I'm
We should have tested this ahead.
We did test it.
No, I mean with Robert.
All right. Robert, do you hear us now from the?
Yeah.
All right.
We just can't hear you.
I've just.
turned it
All
on.
right. Can you?
Yeah.
All right. I think it's. I don't know why it worked on the test, and it's for some reason it's not working. I tested beforehand on StreamYard, and I've got nothing.
Can you hear me now? Can you
I
hear me now?
fine now.
Yeah, and you can
Okay.
hear us.
So put your headphones up. Let me see your headphones.
It's just little earbuds.
Let me see yours, Steve.
They worked. Like I said, they worked in practice.
Right. So, but let me see yours. I want to see
The camera,
Steve's.
the camera.
I want to see Steve's.
Where we go?
Move
Here.
them over. Drop them down. So, Steve, it looks like yours has a mic.
Does it?
Oh,
Is it
what's
just-
this? What's this?
No, this is just a volume. Well, I'm sorry because I tested. It said it said Bumblebee microphone. So
Well,
Right. So when you go in, so you can also go into the audio. Anyway, you're here now.
we probably need a practice run. And
We'll do it. We'll work on it. And
Well, the problem was before that you were hearing the a reverb from this.
that's right.
And how
Well,
are
show
you now?
people your new microphone. Just show them how cool.
Anyway, it's
so cool.
it's damn
Our
cool.
new toy.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
It's
I don't
called a
know.
bumblebee.
I
Is that
may.
it?
Yeah.
Who knows that? All right, so
And
we'll
show them the bumblebee.
we need to
Show them the bumblebee.
and it comes with
Comes with a free bumblebee.
it comes with a bumblebee.
And look at that. You get a bumblebee too.
Get a
Look
free
at that.
bumblebee.
It's
I have
awful.
no
amazing.
idea what to do with the bumblebee.
All right, so we're
It's
gonna
like one of those. What is it? The death hornets.
right the Chinese death hornets.
Do you know what is one of the worst movies I've ever seen?
Mm-mm.
It's called B Movie, the B Movie, and it's an animated movie with the voice of Jerry Seinfeld as a bee,
Oh, that
and
sounds familiar.
and I took my kid to it when he was like a cartoon movie kid, right? You take him, and I went there with me and his mother, and so he plays a bee, and he is a bee that doesn't want to go work in the hive. All right, that's his whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Huh.
So the beginning of the movie is really based on The Graduate, and he's playing the Benjamin Braddock character from The Graduate. You remember that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
Plastics?
Oh
Plastics. The
Yeah.
future.
yeah.
So he decides instead of going to work in the hive, he's going to go have a journey, right? Go find himself.
Hmm.
So he winds up befriending or bonding with a human, a woman, right? Who's this? And by the way, the bees in B Movie are decided that even though they don't say it, they feel decidedly Jewish. Okay. So he winds up bonding with this very attractive blonde woman, and bee deviling her boyfriend, who becomes jealous of this little bee, right? And so now he's got this interesting romance and connection with this beautiful blonde human, right? It's very bizarre, very, very bizarre. And then his buddy is this very unattractive mosquito who's black
Mm.
and is voiced by Chris Rock. It's weird. And it's like, can you make it any more like racist than
Yeah.
having a black mosquito,
Oh, really?
a bloodsucker voiced by Chris Rock? So then what happens is that Jerry, the Jerry Seinfeld B character, leads a revolt. Oh, there's always a revolution involved.
Mm.
And they're not getting enough respect from the humans. So they decide that they're not going to pollinate anymore. And the world is tilting on the verge of ruin because the bees have a worker strike.
Mm-hmm.
And has this very dramatic ending. And because of the love between the Jerry Seinfeld B character and this woman, he has a change of heart and saves the world. And the bees are back pollinating, producing more honey, but they have a lot more respect now from the humans.
That's really weird.
It is one of the weirdest movies of all time. And I actually did a review on it on my website.
What is their point? I mean, their point. What is their point?
Well, what do you think?
Why make a
about
movie
these?
like this? I mean, it's crazy.
What do you think the point is?
Don't know, Robert.
The point is that they have all the power.
That the bees have all the power.
The bees are a metaphor.
Okay. All the worker bees are female. There are no worker bees that are male. None. It's only the females or the worker bees go out and do all the gathering. And the drones are the males. And they just kind of sit like in a tea house and drink tea all day. And they don't do any work. They're only there as to service the queen. It's their only job in life is to service the queen.
That's all the males do.
That's all they do.
That's all
The
they do.
drones, yeah. And then at the end, like now, at this time of year, at the end of the season, they are very unceremoniously kicked out, dragged out of the hive, out.
Really?
Because they don't do any work and they just eat food. They
And-
just eat honey. So they
yeah.
would be a drain on the strength of the hive over the winter. So they are unceremoniously kicked and dragged out of the hive, like right now.
Right. It's true because bees only live in general, I think, 6 weeks.
Something like that.
And but the bees that are born that are hatched now have to make it through the winter. So
Right.
make it through the several months of the winter before the queen starts laying again.
Right, right. Anyway,
So
little bit of bee.
so Chris Rock would and Jerry Seinfeld would be even more useless than they actually are at the moment.
God, it was such a, and I remember distinctly remembering falling asleep during the movie, and that was actually intentional on my part in a lot of ways because I couldn't handle it.
Well, yeah.
I just could not handle
It was actually showed in the theater.
Yeah, it was at a theater. God, I'm trying to find. Oh, my website is Be Definitely Me. My own website is Be Definitely Me.
No,
I'm trying to find search on my website. I can't even find the damn search here. I got to do. There are some things on my website that I have to clearly address.
Yeah, but it's a complicated website, but it's actually really nice. I mean, the graphics are really nice on it. It came out good.
The graphics are fantastic. I mean, I dig the graphics totally. But I'm trying to find a search function here, but
Well, just on a side note on movies, apparently no one's going to the theaters. Right.
Well, they're closing theaters.
Well, I thought that they started reopening for some movies, and no one was in some places, and no one's going.
Well, what's out there really? I mean, what is it? Regal Cinemas, one of the largest cinemas chains in the world, is out of business.
Or okay, out.
Yeah.
Well, it's a double whammy between people being afraid to go, plus the shutdown. So first you're not allowed to go, then you're afraid to go.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that they don't want any new scripts.
For films.
Or for reality.
Oh, for reality. Well, same thing.
Yeah, they don't want any new reality scripts. Let's see.
Or they don't want any. I mean, I'm still seeing like. I mean, the thing I ever watch is a little bit of sports, but there's still hedging on, like, say, commercials having people in masks. They'll show like one person in a mask here and there, but they haven't gone, full blown. And the idea of watching a bunch of people with masks in a film, I don't think anybody's going to want to handle it. It's bad enough. Well, you got to enter the nightmare that's the world outside, and deal with it.
Well, they don't want to be telling new stories to a new generation.
Yeah, well,
they don't want any of that. I mean, they want new stories, new myths. They want to write certain groups and people out of history.
Well, maybe they're waiting for the glorious anarchist revolution to take hold, so they can write stories about that and go full. Who's the Soviet director? Eisenstein.
Sergei Eisenstein.
Right.
Yeah.
The Potemkin, whatever.
The battleship Potemkin. Yeah. Oh man. Okay. I'm just having some revelations here, man.
Look like American Airlines is about ready to take the complete nosedive too.
Well, They'll probably get bailed out. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm. Good chance.
They'll get bailed
Yeah,
out.
they said if they don't get the bailout, they're going under. So
I mean, this has happened with airlines before, and
yeah,
they usually get bailed out.
Yeah, and Chrysler.
Right, Chrysler. Well, we owned Chrysler for a while when Obama got into office.
right.
We actually owned Chrysler. Let's bring it forward. Let's start talking about some new stuff here.
Anyway, yeah.
So there's a lot going on in your state of North Carolina with this guy Cal Cunningham. Do you want to talk about him?
Yeah. So, and you had talked a little bit about this sort of trend. I can think of two of them, at least locally. So one is the Cal Cunningham, who's running against Tom Tillis for the U.S. Senate. And Tom Tillis is somebody I don't know anything about because I never hear anything about him, what he does, or anything like that. So there's him, and as someone living in Asheville, which is very very woke town and very Democrat town, I was getting every day a very glossy, vote for Cal Cunningham, how wonderful he is, so they've been pushing his military background and his family values, and these must have been really expensive to print because white ink isn't cheap, and they have like huge teeth, all of them,
Mhm.
these like big smiles of him and his family and his
literally
dogs, yeah,
okay.
and his probably his dogs in there too. So and there's another concomitant race locally to take Mark Meadows' seat, who became Trump's chief of staff. And there's a guy running against. So there's this young guy, Brandon Madison. Anyways, he's like about 28 years old, and he beat the guy that Mark Meadows handpicked to take his seat in the primaries, and he's running against Colonel Mo Davis. And so they've even taken this a step further with this guy Mo Davis, so they're actually naming him a colonel, and so he's running on his military background again from the Democratic side, and it just seems to me everybody in the South is a colonel. I don't know what it is, but since the Civil War, just everybody's a colonel. I think it's like a middle name down here. But so anyway, so Cal Cunningham was revealed, I think it was last week, that all these sexting messages with someone involved in the PR group, I guess that was working with him. So and actually. I'll see if I can pull up the site because they're really actually kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and so Robert may get a strike.
Well, depends. No, let's hold on.
But here he is running on family values, et cetera, and he's also dodged the question. But the woman's name is Arlene Guzman Todd, who's also the wife of an Army veteran. Maybe ex-wife. So he said that, hey, and you are historically sexy every day and night. So I'm not exactly sure what historically sexy means. I mean, is that like how far back in history?
Like awesomely so.
Like Aphrodite? I mean, how historically do you want to get?
Right. Is it like personal history or?
Right. Well, since she says, let's get away for a night soon. The longer we wait, the crazier the schedules get. And then he wants to kiss her. He just says how much he wants to kiss her, a lot. I mean, I've been out of the dating scene for more than a few decades, but it's just really weird. I want to kiss you a lot.
It's like high school, like 13 years old high school.
She writes back, pick a day, city, make up an excuse for the family, ditch a staffer, starch your white shirt, and be ready to kiss a lot. So there's that oddity, and then it goes even further. And then I don't know how. So the question is, right? Well, is she a honeypot or what's the deal? So then they get the texts between her and her friend. Now, I don't know how you get these things, but anyway, she says he's not even cute enough for me. It's the power I'm attracted to, but it's dumb.
Power's the aphrodisiac. It's always the aphrodisiac.
Right.
It is. Yeah,
Says,
yeah.
she writes, I'm like a convalescent hospital for broken men. Make them feel better to be with a hot woman, and then they disappear.
What's her name? Do we have a name on her?
Yeah, Guzman Todd.
TUZ.
Yeah, that's her last name is Guzman Todd. Her first name is I forget now. Arlene.
Is she married or is she single?
Apparently she was
What
at least
didn't-
married.
Wasn't there some member that something where you said that she was also with
It
a
said that she
military
was also
person?
married to a military person, but
Says, so here, let's put her up here,
so this is a Fox News story.
and we'll do 5 facts on her.
Was that from Heavy?
Heavy, yeah. Here she is,
Well, she's attractive.
the home wrecker.
5 facts you need to know.
She's the wife of Jeremy Todd, so she's married. The woman accused of sexting North Carolina Democratic Senate candidate Cal Cunningham, married to veteran Jeremy Todd, lives in Southern California. So they're not even in Carolina.
No, that's where her PR firm is.
Text messages between Guzman Todd, 36, and Cunningham, 47, were leaked.
So that is a question. How does that happen? How does that's on someone's personal phone?
Yeah,
So how does
National
that
File is an extreme right. Sounds like this could be a setup.
Well, it makes me wonder because somebody's got to leak them.
How does that happen?
So there are 2 things could have happened. Number one, Guzman Todd's husband said in 2016 that his wife was a superhero who carried him through. According to Jeremy Todd's now deleted LinkedIn page, he served 15 years U.S. Army. Todd's website is 33-year-old. That is a 33. There's that number. Year-old USC student. He pledged to Phi Kappa Phi. With his wife Arlene's blessing, he paid a heartfelt tribute to his wife in the interview. Let's see. Says, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Oh, it looks like she's got children too.
Children. Let's see. Guzman Todd said on her now deleted LinkedIn page that she's a media relations director for a representative body of cannabis distributors in California. She was formerly an adjunct professor at Cal State University, where she taught in the communications department. Guzman Todd was quoted in an article on parent.com regarding the use of cameras in childcare. I am a big fan of the cameras. They help provide a feeling. So how does she get into parent.com? She's a versatile, performance-driven strategic communications and public affairs leader. Interesting. And there's Cal, and I guess that's her, right?
Appears to be.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I think that's her.
Because that's his wife. Half.
Is that his daughter?
I think it's his daughter.
Oh, okay.
I think it's his daughter.
Really?
Yeah, that's his wife right over there, right?
Huh, okay. Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Good, Steve.
Guzman Todd's husband broke his spine during active service. She's got one of those faces, those perpetually enthusiastic faces.
Kind of like a Gloria Vanderbilt smile.
I was thinking Mary Tyler Moore, but yeah.
So let's see. 2020, Guzman Todd started a petition on change.org to garner support for her husband's campaign to continue his active service in the U.S. Army so he could qualify for a full pension. She wrote that during his time of service, Jeremy Todd broke his spine in an airborne operation. So, there's some military stuff going on here, obviously. And I don't know. I guess she's got a little bit of the firecracker in her. So he's getting the John Edwards treatment.
Yeah.
It's true.
Without the haircut.
In fact, yeah. Well, maybe with the haircut. He looks like he has a good haircutter. But and he's refusing, as far as I can tell. He made an initial statement, initial sort of, unspecified apology, and then and now he's refusing. He's just ducking all questions, and I guess he's hoping maybe that everyone will forget about it in a month.
In a month, he doesn't have much time.
But what has happened, because since this, I don't believe polls, but anyway, so Tillis went from whatever, a couple points down to a couple points up in the Senate race.
That John Edwards thing was really weird.
It was like a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
Really, he was fine, and then the haircut. What was it like? $100 haircut or something? And
oh no, it was beyond the $100 haircut. That was not. No. John Edwards had an affair and a child out of wedlock.
Yeah,
and he was really looking like he could have been a challenger to Barack Obama.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, at the time, as I recall, and we were, certainly more Democrat at that time. We preferred him, for at least initially, from what we heard, over Hillary and Obama, which is not saying a heck of a lot. But at the time, we agreed more with what he was talking about, whether or not that had anything to do with anything. But you're right; he was definitely, he was definitely somebody to reckon with, and you knew that that between Hillary and Obama, that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, and that was a trip, because she had a really interesting background. So you're a kind of a literati, Steve. So her name was Rielle Hunter. That was the gal that he had the affair with. And Jay McInerney, the author, said that Hunter, his former girlfriend, is the basis for the lead character, Allison Poole, in the 1988 novel Story of My Life. And then Bret Easton Ellis also featured her in one of his books. So when she saw John Edwards I think it was at a bar or hotel club or something in DC, she knew immediately that she wanted the guy, and she went right in. March 20th, I believe she's either late Pisces or early Aries, right? So she went right in on him. She had a plan. She wanted John Edwards, and she wanted to get pregnant. And when that happened, that was it. It was done. John Edwards was cooked.
Wow. So he stepped right into it. She set her cap for him.
Yeah.
Hunter is an appropriate last name for her.
That's right.
She was predatory. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were watching the replay of the 1980 Reagan Carter election. And so the feed that we had was from a station in Maryland. So they were profiling these local races that were going on in Maryland and Virginia. And there was this one guy who was running for public office, and he just come through a scandal where he had sex with a 16-year-old boy, and he almost won, like it was out in the open, and he lost by about 3 percentage points.
Wow.
Can you believe that? This is 1980. This guy got busted for having sex with a young male, and he had the cojones to stay in the race, and not only that, but he nearly won. It's bizarre.
That's way bizarre, and it's just astonishing that they just double down and don't hang their head.
Yeah, and then and I was thinking too, isn't it was it Byrd also had a child out of wedlock?
Robert Byrd,
Senator Byrd. Or was it? I may be wrong. Someone had a child with someone of.
Well, if he did have a child out of wedlock, it would have been a miracle.
Yeah.
You know why?
Well, maybe somebody can correct me, but
Why?
it was with, and well, he was somebody who was, generally known as a racist and had a child.
Well, that would describe Robert. I'll tell you why it would have been kind of a miracle. Kathy O'Brien, who had been handled by Robert Byrd,
Yeah.
said that he had the smallest penis she'd ever seen.
Okay.
That's why.
That's right. I'm glad.
Okay.
I'm glad we got.
Still function as far as procreation.
I guess so. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
But then on the other
Sperm can swim.
On the other end of the spectrum, there's Dick Cheney.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought it was Lyndon Johnson. Who was the other end of the spectrum.
Well,
Brian's was she was she had a number of unfortunate.
She describes Dick Cheney's member in great detail. There's kind of pictures of it on the internet, by the way.
No thanks.
Well, it's not like live. Like you can't see the flesh. But you can see the bulgy outline.
Like live would be now. Like you can on Michelle.
I'll just watch the movie Anaconda or something.
I swear to God, it looks like the guy's got a freaking eel in his pocket.
Really?
Yes.
Cheney.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least I can feel semi-fortunate that I haven't had to hear his voice in a while.
He's been really, really in the shadows. You hear about his daughter. What is her name? Liz Cheney?
There's the daughter who is
hear about her, but haven't heard boo from him.
Yeah. No, he's
probably just channeling him.
Did you ever see the bit with Anthony and Opie and Louis C.K. and Don Rumsfeld?
No, I never clicked into Louis C.K.
I should play it for you guys.
Yeah.
Can I play it? Can we just go off script a little?
Please, yeah.
Yeah, we have
who is he?
Well, we have no script.
Who's Louis C.K.?
Obviously.
Yeah, there is no script.
Okay, so Louis C.K. is a comedian.
Okay.
And he's actually, I actually thought he's quite funny. He got taken down by Me2. He had his own show. I actually thought Louis C.K. was very, very funny. Like super, 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 super funny. And he had his own TV show. He got taken down. Me2. And the oddity is that Louis C.K. Louis C.K., Joe Rogan, and Matt LeBlanc all went to the same high school together and all graduated in the same year.
Oh, really? So they all were kind of friends or knew each other?
I don't know what their relationship is like, but two of them went on to become stand-up comedians with their own shows, and the third had his own show. I don't know if Matt LeBlanc was a stand-up comedian.
Didn't you go to the same school as Seinfeld? And then Alec Baldwin's father was the coach?
But did you graduate with Seinfeld?
He was 2 years ahead of me.
These three guys graduated in the same year. And it's a school known for actors. It's in Newtown, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's.
You find it?
That? Yeah, let's play this. I may get a strike on this, but it is so hilarious. I got to share it.
Good.
It's a good laugh.
We need a laugh.
This is Louis C.K. with Anthony and Opie, and Don Rumsfeld is the guest on the show.
Huh.
Here we go.
Okay, I know him. All right.
I mean, literally, there's people that think they're lizards from outer space.
Yeah, that's true.
Who eat human flesh. I don't know if anybody's ever asked you directly, sir, but are you a lizard?
I don't think.
Are you actually? Can you just please give that a straight answer? Are you a lizard person?
Louis a little left-leaning.
No,
sir.
I'm not. Let him answer. Are you a lizard?
Here's the short answer. I'm in New York City. I walk down the street. People walk up, shake hands, stop me. They want an autograph. Want to get a photograph with me. Go to eat last night at dinner, and Joyce and I were sitting there in the little Italian restaurant. and a man came up and said he'd like to buy my dinner, and I refused. And it turns out I paid for my dinner. The next thing I know, the waiter comes back and said, the man insisted to pay for your dinner, and here's your canceled receipt for paying.
Oh, wow. That's very
See,
nice.
there's plenty of people that
You didn't answer the question.
he's
That was-
not going to
I think you're
dignify.
hanging around with the wrong people.
He's not going to dignify an answer to, are you a lizard, Louis?
deflected.
Why not?
He
Just
Because
tell me
he's
no.
not a lizard.
What is the story about getting somebody paid for your dinner? I would pay for a
Because
lizard's dinner.
I
if
think I understood the fact that there are people out there that appreciate what he's done as a leader. And
There's plenty of evidence that this guy is a well-decorated and
Yes.
appreciated American,
a
and he has
patriot.
more credibility than almost anybody.
Exactly.
But I just want to know if he's a lizard.
He's not a lizard. Stop it. I want to apologize, Mr. Rumsfeld. Louis C.K. is a stand-up comedian, and I do not share his ideology one iota.
Matter of fact, we're meeting him for the first time. We don't even really know him.
Yes.
So we apologize. It's usually
Exactly.
just me and Anthony. But we
Exactly.
said, what the hell? We'll try out this local comedy.
Mr. Rumsfeld, I want to ask you a little bit about the situation going on now in the Middle East. You are an envoy to the Middle East. What do you see happening there? What's your take on the whole situation?
Well, I think what's happening is that we had good relations with many of the governments in there, in that region, and it was contributing to a stable situation that you can have a popular protest and revolution, and the winner is not the people that are looking for greater opportunity. The winner often is a minority group that is very disciplined, very well organized, and very vicious,
Listen,
like Hezbollah in Lebanon, and or like the Ayatollahs in Iran.
Yeah.
So you could get the Muslim Brotherhood,
Oh, that doesn't
the
sound good.
radical extremists,
Exactly.
over Egypt, which would be terribly dangerous.
Absolutely.
Listen, and these are great questions, Anthony, and they're questions that Mr. Rumsfeld is going to answer better than almost anybody in the world.
Yeah.
But I still want to know if he's a lizard.
Stop it.
If he's tasted human flesh.
No,
Just want to know.
Mr. Rumsfeld, again, I want to apologize for Louis C.K. He's a stand-up comedian. He's playing at the Borgata.
It's
go to
a legitimate.
borgata.com.
Look, if he's a lizard who has eaten people,
Don't encourage him. It'll just make him worse.
See, and
I will
it has,
stop the
Mr.
second I
Rumsfeld.
get a denial. I'll stop asking.
Tell Louis that my grandchildren are listening.
See?
Ah.
Well, listen,
Grandchildren
they have a right to know too.
No, he's not a lizard, and he's not tasting.
That's easy for you to
I can
say.
answer because I know the guy is a great American, a great patriot.
Yes,
He's
I
done.
totally agree with
He's
that.
done great things for this country, and
Anthony, is he a lizard? Is Dick
No.
Cheney a lizard?
no,
Have
they're not. They are
eaten
people.
Any Mexican babies? Have they eaten
No.
any human beings?
Stop it. Stop it. I know, Mr. Rumsfeld, I apologize. Louis C.K.
I
is
paid for this microphone, mister.
he's
I
trying
want
to
an
be
answer.
funny. I don't understand it. Where do you see the where do you see the 2012 elections going? Do you see the Republicans taking the White House again? And who do you see as maybe a good front runner for the Republicans?
You know, I don't think there is one. I think it's one of those rare times when there's not an incumbent president running, and there's not a vice president running, and there's not a obvious person. And I think what we ought to do is watch them run around the track a while and see how they handle things. It's a tough job, as President Obama is finding out. It's a lot easier to campaign than
Exactly.
And so I think we ought to watch all these candidates. There's some terrific ones running, and I think some of them have executive experience. Some of them have a lot of legislative experience, and see how they handle. Because what's going to happen is they're going to get asked tough questions. They're going to get put in difficult positions, and we're going to then be able to see how their brains work, how they react, how they handle things, what kind of people they recruit for their campaign team, how effective they are in organizing. And all of those are attributes that are helpful for a president.
Before the Lizard Council meets
All right,
and decides who to appoint.
The Lizard Council doesn't appoint a president, and he's not part of the Lizard
If
Council.
they do, don't you want to know?
No.
Don't you at least want to give them a chance to say, no, I'm not a lizard?
I don't want to picture Donald Rumsfeld on the other end of this phone
Nobody
listening
does.
to you asking
With red
lizard
eyes.
questions. No, he's not with Mr. Rumsfeld.
We have to deal with people who aren't perfect on occasion.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to tell Louis.
And then, so how many guys do you think you've met that died by hanging?
Jesus,
Good question.
Yeah, more than one.
Yeah.
More than one.
More than one. See?
Yeah.
I've never met anybody I met a girl who hung herself,
He's
but
had
I've never met anybody who was sentenced to hanging.
he's had to deal with thugs during his career at some point.
Sure.
He's the world, and a lot of people judge things. I've noticed, Mr. Rumsfeld, a lot of people judge things based on what's going on now. They don't take it in the context of the history and what was going on at the time. Now, during the Cold War, I think we were willing as Americans and the press to accept a lot more covert action on the part of the government for our own safety than we are now. Do you think that's a better thing, that there's so much more information available now, or is it a kind of a good thing for the government to have maybe a little bit of a little more covertness in their actions?
Oh, I think you're right. I think that we live in a world where there are relatively few countries that are like we are. We have free political systems, and that means that we have got to have intelligence gathering activities if we're going to protect the American people.
Exactly. But American safety is like the biggest deal to us. American defense. We've got to keep the American people safe. But what if a whole lot of people in other places have to die in order for us to be safe? Like, what if you found out that a lot of America was going to get hurt unless we just took France and just wiped it out? Would you trade France?
Hypothetical.
Would you trade France for Texas and Arizona?
Can you imagine if I answered that question?
Thank you.
What the news lead would be?
Exactly.
It would be like the answering your earlier question, where I would deny that I'm something that you asked me.
Right. He's not going to deny he's a lizard.
But he hasn't officially denied it.
What would be hurt by denying that you're a lizard?
I did not just arrive in town falling off a turnip.
There are no turnip carts in New York City.
Well, he didn't fall off of one.
No,
regardless.
I totally understand. But no, that's fascinating to me. What would be hurt by and I'm not going to ask you to deny it now. I'm more interested in what would be hurt if you denied that you're a lizard.
He's justifying the question.
Sorry, I brought it up. I apologize.
No.
But I mean, we like to think that we're a comedy show, so we're just kind of asking a silly question.
But that
there,
is
Mr.
fascinating to me.
So there you go. There's Louis C.K.
Yeah, I remember him now. Just the minute I saw his face. Yeah, he is good. But he wouldn't answer the question, Mr. Rumsfeld.
I mean, every time I hear it, it cracks me up, right? And it's like, what would be the harm in you? And then he says, does the Lizard Council appoint the new president?
I thought, yes.
That?
Yeah.
So, is there any coincidence that Louis C.K. got Me Too now?
Well,
maybe not.
Also made me think of David Martin's new book, Lizards Eat Butterflies, which is kind of interesting.
Lizards Eat Butterflies?
Yeah, David Martin, who showed up heavily in the Pandemic 2 movie.
Oh, David Martin, the guy that wears the bow tie.
Right. And, he's...
I don't trust bow tie people.
Well...
Don't like bow ties.
I didn't trust... Well, Tucker took his off. I trusted him more.
Yes. There's something about bow tie. It's an affectation, right?
Don't like it. Unless you're in a tuxedo. If you're in a tuxedo, then it looks good.
If you're James Bond, you bow tie and tux.
Bow tie just screams dork to me.
And Baccarat, that works.
Yep. So I don't know. It's weird. I try not to be judgmental of people, right? Hold on one second. Just one thing. Hold on a second. I'm actually dealing with a business transaction right now in chat. Hold on.
In chat?
Yeah, I have to for the client, somebody who we're reading. Okay, so I try not to be judgmental of people.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be open, right? And I've had to get through like my ego trips of, oh shit, that person knows more than I do, or that person's really an expert, or that person has a great website, or that person has a great following. I have to get over these ego trips because the big picture is like we want to win, right? We want to have a better world. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's qualified and they're really good, and and I'm just like, man, you're in. I want to further that process. That's where I've gotten to.
Yeah, well, I think David Martin's on our side in this.
Every now and then, though, I run into people that I have ellipses. And he's in my ellipses category. And I don't know why. But he's in my ellipses category. Maybe it has to do with the fact that all of a sudden he just showed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we did kind of I don't know, sort of like a conference show with him and Emily and Randy last year.
And that's when he started to pop up. It was right around last year.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it's the first I heard of him.
And so we got to, actually converse with him a little bit anyway. We all have our flaws and what have you, but I can't find anything specific with him other than his books need an editor badly. But that's anybody who self-publishes, I find, thinks they don't need an editor.
Yeah. But I did subscribe to his YouTube channel just so I could be more familiar with him because, I guess like you, Robert, there's a little I don't know about him. So I like to get to know people because I have a tendency to make snap judgments about people, and I've so many times been wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad to say, hey, I was wrong about that person, But I've learned in life, for me personally, I really have to suspend judgment until I get to know a person better. So that's why I subscribed to his channel, and I've only listened to one podcast since I subscribed. But it's a way for me to spend more time with the person and just to get to, to read it on a kinesthetic level. That seems to be a good way to get to know a person through the body language. And just listen to him. What does he have to say, and what are his alignments, and who is he attracted to? Who does he align himself with? What does he have to say?
And
ellipses.
There you go. We got two ellipses.
With Rumsfeld, the first time I ever heard of him was right after he became part of Bush's team, and and it was on NPR, so I was listening to the radio up on the farm, and first thing he said to the press corps, I'm not going to lie to you boys. So I said, okay, there's line number one, right away. So I haven't shifted too much on Rumsfeld.
But I really do like
that's easy, right? I mean, come on, that's like a no-brainer. So,
not to the guys who are interviewing him.
My issue and my challenge is that I'm a very good reader of people.
So
I've been doing this a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Scorpio rising, and my instincts are almost always like really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really good. And there are certain people that I still have not algorithmically embraced. And there are other people I'm cool with and whatever. And it doesn't matter whether I, kind of rubber stamp them or give them the blue check mark. If somebody gets something out of them, that's fine. Right. And so for me, with him, my thing is the time of arrival. And really not a lot of prehistory and showing up right around the pandemic. And I'm not saying there's anything evil or diabolical about it, but I just think that for me, there's not enough of a track record. There's not enough of a kind of a body of work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, not publicly, but he's definitely been around a long time.
Okay.
And the trust level is the trust level. Who knows?
I'd actually like to interview him because that would be a good interview where a vetting process could take place. It's like, okay, you know all this stuff. Well, let's talk about your background, where you came from, and what do you plan on doing with it, right? I mean, that's the other thing. And And he brought a lot of good information about the patents and everything. That stuff it's invaluable, right?
Yeah.
But what do you do with it?
Right, and he's kind. I mean, in my understanding, anyway, because which is not that great, because it's kind of complicated. He's kind of. I think he's developed something kind of like Cliff High, except in sort of a predictive kind of way of assembling information. And I think that's what he's been doing for a very long time. And it's that kind of work that he's involved in.
Mm-hmm.
But is he? He's certainly. I don't think he's anti-corporate or anything like that. I don't know. He's not. I don't. I guess if I have a problem with him, is that I can't tell whose side he's on. Or what's the game.
Really.
Though in this case, he's certainly anti-shutdown and all that stuff. But if you read his first book, he almost like portrays it's a fiction book, but he's kind of basing the character on himself, and he's almost like a superhero in it. And who knows? Who knows? I don't even want to. In fact, this is just it's kind of it's not something I really feel comfortable talking about at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I would just feel like I need more time to get to know him better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have enough information about him, or haven't heard him speak enough. I went back and re-listened to Plandemic, just because the first time I watched it, I was so deeply impressed. So it could probably even use another visit. But I thought he really brought a lot of really important information to the conversation.
Yeah,
And I thought it was pretty brave too to stand up against these.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, with these corporations and these pharmaceuticals, they're beyond mafia.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's pretty brave. Anyone who would speak any kind of truth in the face of that monstrosity, I'll listen to them. I'll hear what they have to say, and I'd like to learn more. That's all. I just feel like I don't have enough knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't either. That's why I have the ellipses.
Right, and that's okay. It's just because you say he just kind of burst on the scene for us, so he may have been available to other audiences before he burst on the public scene, and just to us, he's new. That's one way to.
All that says it was his wife who pushed him to come forward and come onto YouTube. So
she seems to be Australian.
I don't know.
Well, her accent sounds Australian to me.
I've never seen his wife. So.
Well, yeah, she's on the podcast, on the YouTube videos with him.
Okay.
So, and I've only listened to one, and that's more relaxed. That's not like in Plandemic where it's scripted.
Mm-hmm.
That's more relaxed and it's conversational, like this is. So, I'll just keep listening.
Yeah. So okay, let's talk about a few things here. We've got Pelosi getting ready to try to run the 25th Amendment, declare Trump unfit to be president. That's the big percolator right now. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I saw that Murphy. What is his position again? In the administration, Murphy. He said, "Well, that's fine. That's a great idea, and we're going to counter that. And we think that perhaps Madam Speaker needs to be investigated for."
Right, they're flipping the script on her.
Yeah, and that needs to be. Actually, I'd vote for that, because that woman is.
Right.
She's obsessively, compulsively, just consumed with the destruction of Donald J. Trump.
Well, she's a nutbag.
So this to me really is, she's a candidate for 2PC.
They and they always invert. They always accuse.
Seems that way.
The other of the thing that they're doing or planning on doing, right?
Right.
They always do it. They always do it. Michelle Obama went on TV the other day and for 20 minutes was ranting about how racist America is. And she has that the really dramatic oh, oh, oh. And it's like you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And but we're seeing this, it happens all the time. Whatever they're planning on or doing, they're accusing the other side of doing it, or they're doing it to the other side.
So is
We've
that
seen
part
that
of
for a long
revelation
time.
of the method?
We've seen that for a long time. Well, it's an easy way to it's a quick way to figure out what's going on. But but it also seems to be, looking at a bigger picture, right? Seems to be this real power struggle between the three branches. All right. And this is certainly a case of Congress trying to assert its authority over the president, and maybe, develop a mechanism where they can remove the president from there, by establishing this committee where constitutionally, I think it's only the vice president who can do that or propose it. I mean, the whole point was to not have Congress, just get rid of a president because they friggin' felt like it, So and so it's up to the vice president. So it's within the executive branch right now. So this is, again, a power grab, I think. And of course the timing is certainly patent. To do this, whatever, we got like 4 weeks before the election.
Yeah, it's the 11th hour. Pull the fire alarm.
Right.
This is it. This is our last ditch effort.
Yeah.
Well, her latest statement is that, well, I didn't mean it just for Trump. I mean, this is not for now. This is for the future
She
president.
cares so much
That's her
about.
latest
She
statement.
cares so much about the presidency.
So she must have caught some flack for that. Like, really, Nancy? You need a reality check.
So maybe they're hoping beyond hope that they can. That they can say take the Senate, but even so, the removal of a president, according to the Constitution, is I believe a 2/3 vote. Right? You can't just pop them off. You can't just get a majority in the Senate and Congress and do that.
And the other possibility is that it's just to keep them off their base all the time, to be constantly on the defensive.
And then I guess
it works or not.
Yeah. And then the bigger picture, again, as they're saying, is also who they're trying to get control of the judicial branch. I mean, so you've got Trump able to appoint 3 Supreme Court judges, but even more important, as we're finding out, is the lower court judges that you appoint, because you can see all these these lowercase rulings. When we get into if we want to get into Whitmer and what's going on with her, you can see that's right in the time of her being her edicts being declared illegal at least by the state Supreme Court, which is not an executive branch appointment. But you've got that, and then you got Biden. This is totally bizarre, saying I'll answer the question about whether I'm going to stack the court with more judges
after I get elected.
After you get elected.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like we'll read Obamacare after we pass it. It's the same
right
psychology. Oh, and now they're bringing Rahm Emanuel out to color comment from the sidelines.
Actually,
he's the consigliere, isn't he?
Yeah, well, I think he's like more Mossad than Kushner, actually.
Oh, he's so the Emanuel brothers.
He's dark.
Are there? So you have Ari Emanuel, you have Zeke Emanuel, and you have Rahm Emanuel. Ari Emanuel is a super agent in Hollywood. Zeke Emanuel is the father of the death panels inside Obamacare. He helped write Obamacare. And then Rahm Emanuel is the politician and kind of the inside guy, mover, shaker. And their parents were part of, I believe, Ergun, which were involved in the bombing of the King David Hotel.
Right. And were they were all born in Israel?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So they're basically the children of revolutionary parents who were kind of, Israel's version of the Weather Underground.
Hmm.
So
Right.
that's their history.
Right. Except they won in Israel.
Yeah, exactly.
We're still fighting that battle right now.
So they brought him off the bench. I've been seeing him.
In what capacity?
On
What,
MSNBC or something?
but
Yeah, it had to do with. I think it had to do with the debates. He was chiming in on the debates.
just as a consultant,
Yeah. He's on the payroll now.
what do you think, Rom? That kind of.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And
Can you
it's
please tell us what to think?
he's actually missing one of his fingers.
Hmm.
I think they might have done something to him. It was like maybe some kind of weird thing. Yeah.
Sounds like a payment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we were going to talk about Whitmer. Let's talk about that. But before we go there, I wanted to, and I didn't bring this up when we were talking about, but I found this, and I think it's really worth kind of discussing here.
Okay.
And it has to do with the Trump debate with Biden.
Underreported.
And they switched the location of that debate.
Right.
Oh, really?
It was supposed to be at the university.
It's at Notre Dame, and then they moved them into this clinic at Case Western University.
Right.
No. Especially, right at the last minute, you don't agree to that.
Last minute, right? So Notre Dame, which is interesting because that's where Amy Coney Barrett was a professor, was at Notre Dame.
Right.
And these were all the people that were there.
Huh. Oh, so there's Tom Tillis again. Okay.
They were all there, and they were trying to blame this thing on the Rose Garden event. But everybody that tested positive for whatever they tested positive for were here.
So.
Oh, and just Republicans got sick, right?
That's right.
Not sick, but tested positive.
Well, yeah, and then we can go.
Interesting.
We can go a long way on and we still have no friggin' idea what testing positive really means.
So this is the Rose Garden event that they're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Here's the weird stuff, right? You got all these people that are doing who are these guys around Trump's podium? What are they doing? What are they doing? Right? They're not over here. This is where Biden was. Notice how everything is in purple, right? Purple revolution.
Yeah, really.
So they're doing something with Trump's podium. You got this guy here. Who are these people?
Supposed to be electronics workers.
Check out. Yeah, I guess Chris Wallace hasn't gotten anything.
It says it's important to clarify the 11 people tested positive never accessed the debate hall. These individuals were either members of the media or were scheduled to work logistics. Individuals did not receive credentials or tickets to enter the debate hall until they had a negative test. And all were advised to isolate while they waited. So there were 11 people, right, who tested positive.
But it's much higher now, is it not? Didn't I see something over 30?
Yeah.
Right.
But these are people that had nothing to do with Trump's party or contingency. These are different people.
Right. Well, then
they're technicians.
Could be.
Right. And plus we have to, the testing positive, and are they all asymptomatic and all that stuff. It's just,
here's where it gets really weird, right? This is so the people that are involved. So you've got this guy, Mihalevich. Mihalevich.
I would say Mihalevich.
So he's got these big plans for the Cleveland Clinic, 4 million patients by 2014. That's an old statement, apparently. But the guy that's interesting is the interim president for Case Western, a guy named Scott Cowan. And he's connected to Notre Dame. But he's also connected to Yeshiva universities and several others. He and his wife are recipients of numerous awards from Jewish organizations such as Chabad. The following year, Cowan was appointed by President Barack Obama to the White House Council for Community Solutions, which advised the president on ways to reconnect young people who are neither working nor in school. So this guy who runs Case Western, right, which is where they were, was an Obama appointee.
And And apparently
Seems-
a Jesuit.
Seems to be no shortage of Obama appointees.
And he won awards from Chabad, which is interesting. I don't think he's Jewish.
So how would you describe Chabad Lubavitch? What is their claim to fame? What are they about?
Well, it is a certain sect or group inside of Judaism that has a very specific kind of vision for their version of Judaism and the world.
So it's a sect of Judaism. Okay.
Yeah,
It's
think
not
of,
like a political organization or something like that.
well, I mean,
Ostensibly.
they're politically connected.
Right, but that's
But I
not.
wouldn't call them, like, their ideology is not based on politics per se.
Okay.
Their ideology is an end times ideology.
Okay.
And they are preparing for the Moshiach,
Don't know that word.
which is known as the Messiah.
Oh, the Messiah. Moshiach.
And so the Moshiach, the conditions of the Moshiach have to look a certain way. And then what will happen is that the world will go through a purification and a cleansing. And only those pure of heart and mind, only those who are the true inheritors of Yahweh's will be able to survive, and not just survive, but rule over the domain of the planet. And it's under the guidance of the Moshiach that will occur. That's the basis and the foundation of Chabad. So the cleansing and the purification, in many instances, people have felt that would represent some kind of nuclear annihilation. And that it would be because of their purity that they'd be able to survive the nuclear annihilation.
That's interesting. Aren't reptilians like immune to radiation?
Could be. Or it could be something else. It could be a plague. Theoretical plague, and that they have the ability to survive the plague. But what's interesting, though, is Jared Kushner is really, up to his third eye in Chabad. They make huge Chabad, and makes lots of contributions. And you go into, a place like, Parkland, Florida. I mean, you have Scott Israel, who was the sheriff there, was a big Chabad member. So
I think that's the first time I ever heard of them was through that incident.
It doesn't sound too different from apocalyptic Christianity either, really. It's kind of the same.
It's, and I think that's where they converge, and that's why the end times Christians, have this kind of, hug out with the end times, Shabbatists or Lubavitchers is what they're called.
But and as an aside, the Jews in Brooklyn are the only ones who are standing up to de Blasio right now.
Yeah,
I know, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of crazy. I saw these two guys. They're both wearing the tiny hats, and they were like, yelling at this dude about the mass and everything, and being very disruptive. And of course, I've done. I did a story before where the moms, inside the Hasidic community will not vaccinate their kids.
Right. I remember that.
It's like, and this is what's interesting, because, it's not a one size fits all thing. But, because some people will say, well, it's all the Jews' fault. It's all, just blame it on the Jews. I mean, and look, you've got sex within sex within sex.
Yeah, there were Jews, and then there were Jews, of course.
Right. And even the Hasidics, they can't stand the Zionists.
Right.
Because the Zionists are secular. They're not living, kind of the purity of God, right? So you have the Zionists, and Chabad is somewhere in between. They've got their kind of own version of this thing. And then you have, what is it? The non-observance and non-observant Judaism, which means that they kind of go through the sort of the rituals and everything, but they're kind of they're like the Catholics that, sing folk songs,
I
right?
They
think-
call
I
them A&P Catholics, the
Yeah.
Ashes and Palms. They show up for
They show up, right.
Ash Wednesday and Palm Sunday.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And most of them are professors of Black studies in,
Right.
in various colleges.
Right.
So, even in that world, you've got this bifurcation,
Mm-hmm.
and well, like there are people in Israel who do not like Netanyahu.
Oh, lots.
I think there's
They've had
quite a few.
Yeah, they've had lots of demonstrations there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even in Israel, it's not like a lockstep operation. So, again, it bears witnessing in a lot of ways.
Well, isn't it like any country? You cannot paint with a broad brush.
Yeah.
Even within small communities, people are radically different. You can't just say everybody's American. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Californians are radically different from New Yorkers and farmers in the Midwest, and it's really not helpful.
I grew up in in Queens, New York, and the neighborhood was so the diversity of my neighborhood where I grew up, which was a fairly mafia controlled place, was Italian, Irish, and German Catholics. That was like the extent of it. But we built a house up in the Catskills when I was growing up, so this would be like late '60s, and all the old like Daytop Village, all the old drug rehab centers that were, these up in the Catskills were taken over by the Hasidic Jews. And I just still remember driving by, seeing their communities, and it just totally, blew my world away because I'd never seen anybody like that, just how they dressed and the sideburns and everything, and you'd see them in the stores, and never talked to anybody because they kept to themselves. But it's just like I had this vivid recollection of having my little my tight little world blown open by that, and also I remember the Woodstock weekend where I really saw hippies for the first time because it was in that general area, and they were all over the place.
Yeah. I remember the first time I had that kind of visceral moment with the Hasidic community, and I think it was right around 1994. I think it was around 1994, and it was in Brooklyn, and they were in. And was it in Brooklyn? No, it wasn't in Brooklyn. It was some other part of New York, but it wasn't Brooklyn. And they were kind of in with the Dominicans, like the Dominicans.
Oh,
and
not the Dominican
no,
priests.
Dominican Republic,
Okay.
not those Dominicans, but people from the DR, right?
Okay. All right.
So it was this interesting mix of, kind of DR culture and then the Hasidic culture. And I remember walking, I think it was like on a Sunday, because, Saturday they're at the temple on Saturday, right? So Sunday they're out and they're doing stuff. And I'll never forget walking around, and these guys, and this was, I think this was like really, really early, like cell phone time, really early cell phone, and they had cell phones, and they cut almost like a gangster like figure. These guys, they're wearing the black hats, and they're on the phones, and there was kind of an edge to them. They had an interesting
Jewish mafia.
Oh, they definitely have an edge.
Interesting edge, and some of the children look like really unusual, like very unusual looking faces. And if you think about, like, it's a very insular group that has been breeding together for a very long time. And so the children, like, looked unusual, like the big eyes and, and I wouldn't say deformities, but they were just very unusual looking kids. And that was my first connection with them, just on a kind of a visceral level. Like, wow, this is different. I'm from California. This is different.
Yeah, it kind of shakes your world up a little bit. Yeah,
it was cool. Whatever. And then it was interesting because then one day, a couple of years later, I was getting a car service from New York to the airport, from downtown to the airport. and I was talking to this driver. He was this Caribbean black dude. He was really interesting, and he was talking about how the Hasidic diamond traders and dealers, when they come from Antwerp, and they get off the planes, they have their own exit. Like they don't go through
sure. They would have to.
They don't go through customs.
For the carrying the diamonds.
They have their own exit. They go right through, and then they have, vans or SUVs just waiting for them.
Right.
Right. And then bang, they go. Right. So I had this idea, like, wow, that'd make a really, really good like piece for a movie. Like something along those lines, like working these guys into this story.
Sure.
And it actually showed up in what's that movie?
The Hot Rock?
Was it?
The Hot Rock? Dude,
No.
I read that. I even read that.
Hot Rock is great. We'll talk about the Hot Rock in a minute. No, it's it's the movie with Brad Pitt and it's the guy. I always remember Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. It's the one after that. Come on, help me out here.
No, not.
Come on, Chatlandia. What am I talking about? Chatlandia, you know what I'm talking about.
Somebody's gonna know.
Snatch. Thank you. Snatch.
No, didn't see that.
Snatch. Oh, you got to see Snatch. I always forget Snatch. For some reason, I forget. It's a part of the storyline of Snatch. You got to see it. So I thought about it. Oh, this would make an interesting.
Is it a serious movie?
Oh, no.
It's a comedy?
It is. You will laugh your fucking ass.
Oh, good. Okay, then I'll watch it. Yeah.
You will laugh your ass off. And Brad Pitt plays a pikey.
A pikey?
Yeah. A pikey's a gypsy.
Huh.
Like
I never heard
Irish
that.
gypsy. You can't. And it's a great movie. It's one of my favorite movies. Snatch is fantastic. But let's talk about the Hot Rock, Steve.
Actually, the first house we bought together with a friend of ours, she worked in the Diamond District. She was
courier.
She was a courier. She's Jewish and Sephardic Jewish woman, and she worked in that Diamond District doing exactly that work.
And she, to be completely unobtrusive, would just be by herself, going from delivering diamonds from place to place.
So the Hot Rock is a diamond heist movie from the 70s starring Robert Redford.
Early Redford. I can't remember.
And it's actually a very kind of funny, very clever movie. And what's interesting is that hypnotism and triggers play a role in that movie.
Oh.
Do you remember?
Right. I don't, and I even read the book as a kid. One of the first books I think I ever read.
So you don't
remember much.
So what they do is they hypnotize. They get one of these, female hypnotists that works at a club to hypnotize the bank guard.
Huh.
And they put a command into the bank guard.
What a good idea.
Okay. And so you don't remember what the command is?
No, I'll remember after you say it.
Afghanistan banana stand.
That's well, you have to have something that's not going to come up in conversation.
Right.
Yeah. So, and as soon as they say that, he's like,
like Al Roker.
I'll do whatever you want.
Good.
An Al Roker moment.
So, do they get away with it? Did they get to steal the diamond? Did they get away with it?
I think so. They all have the same. They all have the same trajectory. They almost get it. Something goes wrong. They have to, fish out. I can't imagine that they went to jail. This would have been in the 60s when people didn't always get the comeuppance legally.
So the characters are Robert Redford, George Segal,
right?
Ron Liebman, Paul Sand, Moses Gunn, William Redfield.
There's got to be like Karen Black in there or something.
A woman named Topo Swope.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Liebman is a great character actor. Do you know Ron Liebman?
Probably if I saw him.
Maybe a face.
I
I know
remember the name
faces, but
basically.
I
Here, let's put
I don't have the same, movie recall that you do.
And Robert, I'm like your polar opposite when it comes to remembering movies. I see them, I walk out of the theater, and they evaporate out of my head.
That's Ron Liebman.
No, don't remember him.
If you saw him, like you hear, if you saw his picture, he was in Slaughterhouse 5. You ever see Slaughterhouse 5?
Way back.
It's a great movie, by the way.
Mm-mm.
Great movie. He played Paul Lazaro. And his famous line is, "Nobody fucks with Paul Lazaro." And he eventually gets Billy Pilgrim in the end. So the hot rod. So there's an interesting trend in movies, right? Like they had to have a movie code. And in the movie code, the bad guys had to have their comeuppance, right? Like if you did a crime,
Right.
you had to do the time. That was part of the movie code.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Happy endings.
Like it was like there was a morality piece.
Definitely.
That changes.
Yes.
It changes. Yeah,
It's
one of the
gone.
famous ones was Woody Allen's Crimes and Misdemeanors.
The movie that changes it all.
Red Easy Rider too, wasn't that?
No, they don't get away with it. They get killed in the end.
They get killed.
Yeah.
Okay.
The movie that changes it is a movie called Harper with Paul Newman, which I highly recommend. It is incredibly symbolic. Astrology plays a huge role in Harper.
Mm.
And God, Harper's a mind-blowing movie. He plays it's kind of like the Philip Marlowe kind of thing in LA. Anyway, there's a scene at the end of the movie where him and that guy Arthur Young, who played like a lawyer on TV, I forget which one, but they have a change of heart about how things are going to go. Right? There's money involved, and they kind of leave you hanging, but you get the sense that Paul Newman is maybe going to do something different. Right? That's the first movie where like they keep you kind of hanging, but they don't do the time. But the one that really crosses that line is The Getaway with Steve McQueen and Ally McGraw. Because that's what it means. They get away with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They rob a bank, or they have to go through all these trials, and at the end they wind up, getting away with it. And after that, it's forever. From that point forward, things change.
Mm.
Yeah, but and that was really such a golden era for movies.
Yeah.
From whatever 67 through 75, or
it's great. It's the best period of movies.
American cinema, especially.
You can actually get up. I think you can still see a few decent films around 79 to 80, but once you get into the early 80s, everything changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Music,
everything.
Jay Weidner talks about that, and apparently the CIA and the NSA, they all start to get more involved in the production of films, and they begin to weed out the conspiratorial kinds of films that show up in the 70s.
Yeah, and there's a shift because there were in the 70s you would go to a movie based on the director.
Mm-hmm.
If Kurosawa movie came to town, well, screw it, I'm going to see it, right? You just go based on the fact that director was good. Now, I don't know any of the directors. I don't, so like I said, starting in the 80s, I mean, they did a few more, but I think the director as the auteur ended back then. Because you even have Coppola coming out with a new Godfather 3, which is something that referenced often on the Q pages. Because he didn't like the way he was told to make it, and so even somebody like Coppola, after he's done the two Godfather movies,
he can't get a deal. Coppola can't get a deal.
Right.
He can't get a deal. I mean, this guy has Oscars and has created some of the best American cinema ever, and he cannot get a deal with the studio.
Why?
Right.
Why is that?
They're not going to give him the money. He's got an independent voice, and they want to create different kinds of movies now. They don't want the old guard making movies.
Unless he wants to work with Marvel, I don't. What is he going to do? But anyway, supposedly he's re-releasing, his whatever director's cut of Godfather 3, which might be interesting because that didn't do it for me after the first two, but the first two are just, so magnificent, and so iconic.
I think Regina is in Godfather 3.
Really?
Regina Meredith. She's in the beginning scene of Godfather 3.
Huh, that's interesting.
That's what Jay told me.
Interesting.
Right. So, but I guess the connection, one of the references is about the Vatican and real estate that comes up in Godfather 3. That apparently it's the same company that's actually done the corrupt real estate stuff. I can't remember it offhand.
Oh, you mentioned that.
But this particular pope is really gone off the rails. I mean, he's got absolutely nothing to do with Christianity anymore. Certainly not the Christianity that we grew up with in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, so he's connected to this group called Praise People. Have you seen that?
That one, no.
No.
All right, so Praise People is this kind of non-denominational kind of group. Catholics, Christians, right? This is what Amy Coney Barrett belongs to. Is what Mike Pence belongs to.
Okay.
And Pope Francis is part of this Praise People kind of movement. And he's basically a real estate salesman for Agenda 2030.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he's a player in that world. And they still, even though traditional Catholics probably have moments of conscience with this guy, these other people have kind of altered their view of what their faith looks like and how to unfold in the world. And they're okay with the Pope.
Yeah, I wonder if
how can you be okay with this man?
I wonder if there's a connection between them and Opus Dei.
I don't know. I think Opus Dei is radical.
I think so.
I think Ratzinger was Opus Dei.
Right.
And they're radical. They are like, what's that?
Steve calls him Joey Rats.
Joey Rats, yeah.
Yeah.
We were at Sharp Cathedral when he got when he became Pope.
Yeah.
Yeah, Opus Dei is radical. They're like these. They're like the hardcore, right extreme version. These people are not that.
Okay.
All right. Well, so there's been, and I heard, I can't remember who it was where we heard about it, but the head of the Vatican money, who was then sent back to Australia for the pedophile charges, Cardinal Pell.
Cardinal Pell.
Right. So it seems like a lot of people are talking about that, and I don't have any direct information, obviously, as a setup because he was digging into the papal finances. And
That's
he
interesting.
and so they got him set up in Australia on, whatever 40-year-old charges. I don't know if the charges weren't 40 years old, but the occurrences were 40 years ago, which may or may not be true, of course. But that he was taken down by the Vatican because he was looking into their finances and auditing what was going on there. Mm-hmm. So that's just another thing that came out. You just can't get too far. You can't go too long without something coming out from the church. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. That's an interesting angle. Yeah. Speaking of movies, you want to talk about the Christy Whitmer movie?
Oh yeah, and just one other quick thing before we get there, just to see if you know about it. That there's apparently there's a lawsuit in Texas against Harris's. Whether Harris is actually a legitimate vice presidential candidate. Did you hear about that? Someone's bringing a lawsuit against her because neither is she a natural born citizen, mm-hmm. which when they wrote the Constitution meant you had parents
that
born in citizens of the United States, nor has she renounced. Therefore, she is still officially a citizen of Jamaica and of what's the other country? No, I can't remember.
Don't know.
Harris's parents.
Well, there's Jamaica and then there's India.
India, right.
There's East Indian and West Indian.
Right. So in other words, so to be president of the United States, first of all, you have to renounce your citizenship in other countries. I mean, that's a no-brainer. and somehow to become a naturalized citizen, which he isn't. So she's still constitutionally ineligible to become the president of the United States. And since no one is talking about it, there are certain people, and I saw a lawsuit was brought in Texas. I don't know where. Anyway.
So if they bring a lawsuit, you would imagine that that would force the conversation nationally.
It depends if you get somebody to listen to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, I'd be very surprised if even Fox News would even dare to broach the subject.
Right. Well, Fox News is now
they're Disney, right?
under Disney, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know, it's like it's just that obviously they have to let Tucker still speak, because I believe he's the most popular person.
Well, there's also, I think, probably even some kind of weird occult thing with Tucker. Like they have to let him do that. Like I think it's almost like an esoteric kind of, exercise in some way.
Really?
I think so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, and plus, it's the illusion
They
of.
are weird. They have their weird rules, right?
Yeah, the illusion of free speech. Yeah, but they're their rules. They're not our rules. This whole idea of you have to, reveal in some way, your nefarious things, and that gets you out of, the karmic loop. Well, fuck that. That's not true. I don't buy that. Just because you say it's true, just because it's your religion, doesn't mean it has to be ours.
Yeah, agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So anyway, so I just thought that that was kind of interesting. At least somebody's.
So I did this last night. I went back and I watched Tulsi Gabbard take down Kamala Harris again. Of course, she just completely dismantles her.
Right.
But what's really interesting is like the prelude to that, where Kamala Harris is like taking a scalpel and just ripping it down Joe Biden's back.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it is brutal. And she's looking at him with that, was that girl. The same kind of like indignation and all that other stuff that she gave to Pence, right?
And wasn't that not true?
Well, look, I lived in California, and I lived there during the time that Kamala Harris supposedly was, in Oakland and being bussed. Like, busing didn't really happen in California.
Right.
That didn't really take place.
Mm-hmm.
Period. End of story.
That's what I thought.
I guarantee you.
So
I guarantee you, Kamala Harris did not live in a shitty neighborhood of Oakland.
Right.
No. And if she got bussed, she would have gotten bussed to a bad neighborhood. And she would have got her ass kicked. Totally got her ass kicked. No. The politics of complexion in the black community are quite interesting.
Yes.
I dated a mixed gal for a brief period of time, and she looked decidedly more black African American than Kamala Harris does. And when she was from the Maryland area, so when she was young, she went to a predominantly white school, and she got into hassles. She got into fights with the white girls.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, well, we got to have parent teacher conference and figure out a solution. Solution well, let's send her to a predominantly black school. And according to her, it was even worse because she, the complexion thing, right? And she wasn't like as dark or whatever. I mean, it was, and she got in even more fights in that school.
Interesting.
And it was like she couldn't win in a lot of ways. It was rough.
Yeah, we have a friend. She teaches in Athens, Georgia, and she adopted 2 Indian girls who were very dark skinned, and they really went through it there because
Georgia.
So they couldn't be with the black one. They couldn't be black, and they couldn't be white. They had a really rough time fitting in anywhere when they were growing up, and especially one of them has had a lot of problems dealing with
psychological problems. But even in India, you have that whole thing with
That's right.
the darkness of the skin.
Very much
Like,
so.
when we were in the ashram and studying, in like the Vedic times, they were disparaging the really dark skinned people.
Yeah.
So,
The
it's
Dravidians.
just, I think it's a human thing. You can't stamp it out completely. I think it's like deep in the DNA that people are attracted to people who are like them. When we went to Ireland, I was 50 years old. I have cousins in Belfast. And it didn't take long for me to feel this kinship. I looked around, and the thing that struck me was that everybody looked like me. And it never even occurred to me before that I have a tribe, that I felt this belonging, just on the physical plane. Just, wow, they all look like me. And there's something about that. It runs very deep.
So are you a P Celt or a Q Celt?
I think I'm a Q Celt.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Hey, I want to say to the people who were at the chat room, or anybody who saw the photos, did you notice?
They're not up yet.
They're not up yet?
No, I couldn't figure out how to get them on here. We'll
boo.
talk
All
about
right.
that later.
When they go up.
I have them, but I haven't been able to put them up on the site you set up, Robert.
When they go up, and look at the photos from when we were in the circle, in the henge.
Right, there's a queue on.
You saw that.
I looked up and I was like, that's a queue. And it looks like it wasn't imposed on it. It looks like it was just like,
it was weird. It was
some random thing that came out.
That fit with everything.
It was perfect. But I stopped and took a picture of it. So when we get our pictures up, look for the Q Celts.
Yeah.
That was a great ritual, Robert.
Oh,
I don't know if you don't mind
phenomenal.
me saying, I don't know how far off you want to get topic or whatever, but anyway, that, and then I've had some dreams since we came back that kind of related to the forward and backwards kind of thing. And, it was one of those things that it was very subtle and potent. It wasn't, a knock over the head kind of thing. But I think it was very effective.
So what Steve is referring to is something that we did on, it was a week ago now.
Friday morning. Early.
You made us get up early.
Way early.
Yeah. Chris was bitching about it.
Oh, man, I was bitching.
So it's like 8:30. 8:30, you got to meet me in the lobby. And Chris was so cute the night before. She says, I know what we're doing.
Oh, I had a feeling.
We're gonna go to HEB with our mask.
I thought you were gonna make us do.
I indulged you, didn't I?
You did. You're good.
Yeah.
You strung her along.
Yeah.
So smart.
You're smart, Chris. Wow.
But you're wrong.
Wow.
But the clues were sitting all around us in that room.
Amazing.
Well, you knew they were, yeah.
I didn't know. Well, they were, and I didn't pick that room. That room picked up.
That was really, in retrospect, wow.
Yeah, that was the perfect prelude to the whole thing.
So now you have to explain to people who weren't there.
Well,
the room.
Yeah, so we wound up on Thursday night. We wound up going to this Cajun restaurant, and we just went there. We just decided it was open. And we went, and they put us in this room. It was like a banquet room, and they had all these masks, very Mardi Gras kind of like atmosphere on the inside.
Right, big, like.
They had masks, right? And then they had the mask of joy, and then they had the mask of sorrow, which those masks would play a role in the following day. So I'm looking around with all these masks. I'm going, this is a trip, right? Mm-hmm. Because they don't know where they're going, but the clues are all around them. Mm-hmm. It's very symbolic. So then the next morning, we took off. We went, and I think it was Ryan's wife. She guessed it.
She did.
She guessed it. And we went to this place called the Stonehenge of the Hill Country, and it looks like Stonehenge. And they had, and we got there, and then Joan was there, and she had a mask on. There's these weird masks.
She was the greeter.
And what I'd done is I'd bought the mask of sorrow, right, and then the mask of joy, and I put the mask of sorrow, or Joan did, at the entrance of this inside of this Stonehenge, and then the Mask of Joy at the exit. And so the idea was that we would go into this thing wearing a mask and like the Janus. And that what we would do is we would go counterclockwise 3 times and wind time back.
That was wonderful.
And then I said a few words about the mask and, donning the mask and the mask we wear. And then the idea would be to go clockwise 3 times and wind time forward. And then we exited out of one of the gateways where the Mask of Happiness was.
Yeah.
So I went through first and I took off my mask and I had everybody, I took off everybody's mask except for one person. You know who that was?
No.
Steve.
Oh, Steve Mercer?
Steve took off his own mask. No, you're Steve.
Oh, my Steve.
He took off his mask.
Steve Crimis?
Yeah, I flung.
Yes.
Oh.
So,
I didn't know you were taking them off.
I was taking everybody's mask off.
Oh.
You took your mask off by yourself, which is fine. Right. So, but then once we took the masks off, it was this idea that, we were reversing the trend and
true self.
And we can enter into the event without any masks. So that's kind of how that thing started.
It was wonderful. It was just delicious. It was such a surprise and shock. My jaw dropped when we pulled in there. I was like, oh, I had no idea that such a place existed there. And you got me. You really got me.
And then Masaki texted me the next day and told me that the next eclipse is going to go right over.
Right.
I heard that conversation.
It's going to go right over Stonehenge.
But then he also said that they moved those stones from a different location.
Maybe originally. But it's been there like that for a while. It's been there since in that place since I've been here.
Now, are they natural stone or are they?
I think they're more metal.
Metal?
Yeah, you clank on them.
Really?
Yeah, I think they were cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me show people what it looks like really fast here.
Yeah.
And the just to on a personal note, the mask with the smile is the symbol of actually the muse that has been with me since I began writing decades ago. It's Talia, Thalia. She's the Greek of the 9 muses. She's the Greek muse of comedy.
Oh, interesting.
And that's her symbol is the mask with the smile. Tragedy, of course, is the other way around. But she has been with me behind my writing since I began writing. And so I always try to honor her.
Yeah, there's a beautiful white daffodil named Thalia.
That's right.
So I'm trying to get this thing to share. Hold on a second. You know where I first encountered those masks, Steve? Was the Three Stooges.
Huh. Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Right.
So they did a skit around it, you mean?
No, was it like part of the ending credits, you mean?
And they'd have those masks.
Right.
So
that was the production company.
I think after that event, someone was saying, so the curator of the place was upset. I noticed after we finished that there were some people standing over by the little outbuilding watching us. And I thought, they must think this is strange, But there was something about he was kind of upset that these strange people came in. And
apparently we were supposed to get permission.
You know what they say.
That wasn't happening. Yeah, Steve said better to
ask forgiveness
than ask for permission.
That's one of my favorites. But yeah, can you imagine the shock they had?
I know, they were probably like, what the fuck is going on here with these people?
And they were totally out of control because, it was already in progress maybe, but I don't know if they were there.
Already in progress. And then it was done. It was over.
It wasn't that long.
Yeah. And but what's not over, I just got Love Lies Bleeding out of my head.
Oh, so yeah, that was, Yeah.
Little
I get
boombox
stuck in my
there.
head. That guitar riff was just stuck in my head for days.
I think you probably just reactivated it.
Yeah, it's a great riff, though. If you're gonna have something stuck in your head, it's a great riff.
That's
Right?
one of the great double albums of all time.
Yeah, I think so too. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. To me, that's the peak of Elton John right there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, I'm sure we could go on for a couple of hours more. And now I'm having a problem with the software. So
All
maybe,
right. So you want to quickly go over the Gretchen thing?
I can't even see you right now. Look, you can go over the Whitmer thing. It sounds like
Yes.
another FBI case of entrapment, which they're quite good at.
Right. That's basically. I mean, here she is. She's what happened to her state. Well, her attorney general, right? Refused to enact any of her edicts. And plus, you lost the court case to her own Supreme Court to continue her probably the most restrictive of all these restrictions, except for maybe Newsom in California, who wants to basically, put your mask on between bites of food. Fucking dickhead. So I mean. Right, so it could be, it feels like a setup because it was right off the bat they started talking about, Trump militia groups all of a sudden, being behind it without with zero evidence of anything having to do with anything, and then of course because they don't care because as long as they get the first word in, as what does Mark Twain say? The lie is halfway around the world before the truth gets its boots on, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
So they don't care, and all the retractions and anything else is going to be out of the mind of most of the people who are just, scan headlines
and they
or
won't
whatever.
hear that part
at all. No, they won't. So they'll just hear the first one where it's Trump's militia groups that are doing it, and then and the FBI, of course, long history of setting up people.
Oh yeah, they're the king of patsies, from Timothy McVeigh to airplane shoe bombers to now we've got the white militia wanting to kidnap Whitmer.
Yeah, and with a big anarchist flag on the wall,
and take her to take her to a safe house in Wisconsin. What the hell does that mean? That's so bizarre. And they were trying to get, but they were going to need 200 people to do it. That was one of the other things I heard.
Yeah. So I mean, they're great at doing stuff like this. In fact, I think they got, who was it? They got this one guy to kind of do something. He's like borderline special needs. I mean, they'll take advantage of people who are challenged.
No,
they have no scruples.
No, the FBI is, looking at the Southern District of New York and, what's been going on there. And there's, who's heard boo from Ms. Maxwell? Nothing. I guess maybe there's a trial next year or something like that. But, all that.
Look, Bill Barr was brought in to bury Epstein, figuratively, not literally. He was brought in to bury Maxwell, figuratively, not literally. He was brought in to basically get Trump through the impeachment process and be the voice of authority and essentially make sure that Trump was free and clear of impeachment. I think that was the deal that Barr made.
Right. Well, he certainly wasn't there to indict anybody.
No, he was basically there to steward Kavanaugh through and make sure that Trump didn't get impeached. I think that was the deal. And there are enough connections between Barr and Kavanaugh through Bush that make that easily sellable.
Mm-hmm.
And who's the guy that chimes in?
Barr's wife
and
Comey's wife.
Go to Bible class together?
They do Bible study together.
Yeah, what Bible do they study? The Anton LaVey's Bible?
It could be. It might be Crowley's.
Yeah.
Maybe they get together to study the Book of Lies by Crowley.
Yeah, it was so funny the other night watching Harris. She says, what did she say? I am, what is it? I feel disrespected that you would question myself and Joe as people of faith. Right? It's like, really? You're a person of faith? Like, what's your faith, Kamala?
Mm.
Really? Let's talk about that. And Joe's supposed to be some kind of Catholic from Pennsylvania. That's his thing now. Oh yeah, I'm a Catholic from Scranton. Whatever. It was amazing to watch how the people on the left were spinning her performance.
Yeah, now I didn't listen to any of that. So what are they doing to defend her?
That she was attacked by Pence.
And she kept
misogynist,
her, mansplaining her, but she was smiling all the time. She showed such grace and class and poise.
And that wasn't a smile. That was a smirk.
Yeah,
She was rolling her eyes and smirking.
And she said this one thing at least 3 or 4 times, which is, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking now. And they made a T-shirt out of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, of course. So now,
didn't they make a T-shirt out of "Shut up, man"?
Come on, man!
Come on, shut up! Whatever Biden said to Trump.
Oh yeah. He told him to shut up. But you know that Harris was told, you've got to say, "I'm speaking now." Right? Because those T-shirts were ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
They were ready to go. They were the same thing with the CGI fly. Like, that fly wasn't there. They CGI'd that onto Pence's head.
Fly, yeah.
Because they had the fly swatter ready to go. They've got a fly swatter, I think, with Pence.
They had a fly swatter?
You can go online and buy a Pence fly swatter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And those are all ready to go, right? Like that.
Mm.
And then, of course, he was talking about, I think, racial equality when the fly popped on his head. You think that's like by coincidence? And even Joy Reid pointed that out. I think it's really interesting. He's talking about racial equality, and that fly landed on his head, right? So it was completely timed in CGI. That fly comes from out of nowhere, never moves once, by the way.
Mm.
And Pence is moving his head all the time. You move a little bit, the fly will get up and buzz around, come back, and if it likes what it's eating, it'll come back and lay down again or hang out. But never did. It was a CGI effect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Well, I think I'm kind of glad that at least there won't be. Maybe there won't be any more debates. I don't know if there are other VP debates, but I don't think.
Well, so Trump does not want to do a virtual debate with Biden because of the potential Biden being wired up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we may not see another debate.
He was pretty wired up from the very.
He was wired in a lot of different ways, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think he still is. I think they still have to. It's like an electric car. You got to plug him in overnight.
Yeah.
And,
he was wired for sound and high on meth.
Right. Well, and the other interesting thing is how quickly Trump came back from the COVID.
3.5 days.
Suppose it's whether he had it. Well, whether he keep going back.
Better than he has in 20 years.
Yeah. Does it even exist? But even beyond that, he bounced back. Yeah, like Jesus, like in 3.5 days.
So maybe COVID is good for you.
So, and the thing now is he's pushing this Regeneron. And he's like pushing the antiviral cocktail. The talk of the vaccine has gone bye-bye. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Well, I don't mind that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I want to, down a shot of Regeneron. If he wants to, that's fine.
Mm.
But you know.
I would just take MMS myself.
But we're singing a different tune now with how to deal with this, whatever this thing is. Regeneron.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that
it's
that
another-
the plasma therapy, or is that something other?
It's kind of this it's a cocktail of stuff, and they're being very coy about what's in it. They claim there are no stem cells. They claim there are no fetal cells. One of the things that I've heard is that there is some nanotech involved with the Regeneron.
Mm.
You know, I don't know, but it wasn't just Regeneron. He was the Regeneron. Remdesivir was part of the
Part of it. So is
and
it a liquid that you drink or an injectable?
you know, I have no idea. It's probably an injectable.
So this was really weird. This morning,
Yeah.
you know, our phone goes off and all it says is U.S. government, right? And then, you know, the answering machine shot comes on, and it's like right in the middle of what sounds like a conference call.
A live conference call.
Where someone is
A live call in.
Yeah, where someone is talking is basically saying he got over the COVID and he sounded like a government official, but I couldn't tell who it was because there's no name. It just started right in the middle of this thing, like it was a live broadcast, and they were talking about plasma donations if you've had the COVID. Therefore, you theoretically have have antibodies to it, right?
But they're only supposed to last like about 4 months or something like that. Though.
But it was just bizarre to have this, you know, this call begging for plasma.
But it was like we had clicked into an ongoing conversation.
Right. And, yeah, because he's taking questions.
We didn't sign up for anything, so I don't know.
And then he's taking questions from people. So it was some sort of live conference somewhere that just like popped into our phone. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just in case I needed something else.
But then in other news, I don't know if you had even time to look at the link that I sent you this morning about Candace Owens. What happened to her?
What happened to her?
I think it was like probably
2 days,
yesterday or the day
afternoon.
before. Apparently, she's a very severe asthmatic.
Oh.
And she said she put this up on Twitter. I guess it was Twitter. And I found it through Rumor Mill. But she goes on about 15 minutes about what happened to her. She said, it's been a long time since I had a bad attack, but I did. And she said, I went to the doctor. She said, I made it through the night. I was taking my regular medication, but it wasn't helping. And she had a really rough night. And and plus she's 7 months pregnant. So she goes to the doctor in the morning and she gets to the office. They make her wear a mask. Someone who's having a severe asthmatic attack.
This isn't even an office. This is an asthma clinic.
Right. This is a specific clinic for asthmatics and respiratory patients.
Right.
So they make her wear a mask while she's waiting. And then she gets into the office and he's got the medication right there on the shelf. She said, it's about a foot from my head. But he says, but I'm sorry, I can't give you the medication because of the COVID regulations.
Well, he goes out of the office and then comes back in. I can't administer it. Yeah, I mean, he's like, all of a sudden he goes out of the office and comes back in and says he can't give it to her.
So he would not give her the medication that was 1 foot away that would stop her asthma attack.
Well, that to me goes back to what Glenn was talking about in the first hour, where, you know, if she's a conservative, she was denied service. I mean, that's really what happened.
Yeah.
She was profiled and denied service. I tell you that right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody knows who she is.
Well, then she goes on and they said, well, we could call an ambulance and take you to a hospital. That's going to take hours.
Oh, God.
Okay.
And she refuses to go. She's not going to a hospital.
Not going to a hospital. But they said, we could give it to you in the ambulance. So she said.
But he calls an ambulance anyway and has a bunch of paramedics come upstairs
and show up
with a gurney to take her.
And she's like, no,
And
I'm not
I'm
going.
not going on that gurney.
And I'm thinking
No.
Kanye, right?
I'm thinking James Forrestal. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So then they said, okay, well, then we can give it to you in the ambulance. Then they backtracked that and said, no, that's too confined a space. We can give it to you in the street.
They get her in the ambulance and then say they can't give it to her in the ambulance, right?
Yeah. Then they said, oh, but we can give it to you in the street. It was just the craziest thing I've ever heard. The woman could have died because she's that severe.
Yeah, so she ended up taking it like on the sidewalk.
Is that what happened? She did,
yeah,
in
it
the
was
end,
just
she
like
took it?
something that could have been done in like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
If you want to watch the video, I found it on Rumor Mill News, and they've got a link to it there.
It
runs about 15 minutes, but it was stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we could go on for a while, and but you guys probably have a guest there, and I got to go do a client. So
we got things to do. Yeah.
When we sign off here, great show.
Well, thanks, Robert. It's good to see you again. Maybe next time we'll get the microphone and
we'll get the bumblebee.
We'll get it working. I'll take a practice.
We'll work on it. But you guys sounded good today.
Oh, good. Well, so there was no feedback or anything, huh?
We feel good.
It's
well,
okay.
That's because I shut those speakers.
You did.
Or I don't
it
know.
Looks like it's still on.
No. Okay. Yeah. Yep. And I went to the chiropractor, and my neck is got 5 cracks.
Ooh.
So we're doing a little better, heading in the right direction finally. Yeah, the flight back home, because I had a shoulder bag, killed it.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I'll say, the airports, no one bothered us without a mask. Nazis on Delta, but
I didn't wear a mask in any airport at all. I figured, let me just try. See, nobody approached me. But on the airplane, there was a little bit of
ma'am. You're
gonna have to put that on.
So
isn't it interesting how no flight attendants ever come down with COVID?
I wonder. Well,
that's one of those anomalies, right? Yeah.
Well, I think. Well, looking at what they do, I would say airplanes are probably like the cleanest places now. They used to be, septic incubators.
I think it's probably as good as an operating room at this point.
Recirculated air. I don't know.
Yeah, and also I learned too that there's no more. You don't encounter turbulence anymore. You encounter rough air. I didn't know that there was a change. I didn't get the memo. I don't know quite what that means yet.
It's reality being rescripted.
Yeah.
So anyway, Robert, great to see you. I know you got things to do. Thanks for sharing your space on your show with us. And
yeah. All right, those are the Crimis.
All our friends, old and new.
Yeah, the new crew and the old crew, and it's all coming together. I'll have links for the Crimis website if you want to check out their publishing. I'll also have a link for Glenn Streeter's website and a few others. In the meantime, use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. We'll see you on Sunday night Astro Live. Bye for now.
And we'll try to get those photos up too. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Robert. How do I?
Whatever.
Just exit out.
Let's see. Leave studio. Try that.